Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, July 28th. This is the work session and special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Genevieve, welcome. Good to see you. First up is the roadmap for homeless response, not to be confused with the Rural Health Transformation Program, which is later this afternoon. So you guys are all over our agenda. Ashley Perl, the table is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. On this rainy afternoon. I'm Ashley Perl. I'm joined by Chad Federowitz with the Senior Services Manager. Did I get that right this time? Kelly Medina, the Interim Director for Human Services, Andrew Miller, Housing Analyst, myself. And we have our amazing consultant from SHG today, Cassie Westermoreland. She's going to introduce herself. And I believe we have Kristen on the line as well. Spaz, if you could upgrade her when she joins. Okay. We're here to present the final roadmap for homeless response. This is the first time the board's seen this roadmap. You heard from SHG and all of us about a year ago, so it's been a little while since we've talked about this subject. The purpose today is to present the roadmap, answer questions, just kind of familiarize yourself or all of us and the community with what's in there. Following today, we're hoping, we're not looking for a decision today. We're just looking for general kind of conversation about the roadmap. Following today, we're going to go out and continue to talk to partners, continue to think through feasibility and logistics of how we kind of move some of the things in the roadmap forward. And then that will lead to more frequent check-ins with the BOCC. So I know it's been a while since you've seen us. It won't be this long again. I just wanted there's a lot of us here, and I think that's kind of intentional. Addressing homelessness or supporting those who are unhoused in our community is not a mandated service. So unlike many of the things that Human Services provides to the community, we don't get any money from the states. We don't get any money from the feds. Nobody says we have to do it, but we've been addressing homelessness in some way or another for over 20 years. So it takes all of us. It's lived with Human Services for a while. Once we started to have housing staff, it's lived between Human Services and housing. And then 2 years ago, we brought on SHG, an incredible consulting firm made up of 3 individuals who all have experience working at the state level in Colorado directly on this topic. So I think we had a conversation about 2 years ago before we hired them, and the question was, well, can't we do this in-house? Don't we have enough expertise in-house? And it's been truly eye-opening just how little expertise we have in-house when we are working with a team that knows what are the challenges, what are the best practices, what is it like to kind of live this work day to day, and what are these folks who are unhoused experiencing on day to day, and what do they actually need? And I think, you may say, like, why has it been a year since you last heard from us? The SHG team knows homelessness and homelessness response incredibly well. What they didn't know was our community. And much like all other things, we're so unique here that things that worked in Denver don't work here. Things that work in other states might not work here. So it's taken quite a while for this team to really understand and pair together what works elsewhere and what are the best practices, and then how do we make them, what do they look like in Pickens County to serve the Pickens County population? So I'm really excited about the roadmap that's in front of you today, because it's not just a standard list of, this could be the response anywhere in the country. This is the response for Pickens County. And really only for Pickens County. So I think you'll see a lot of that in the roadmap of, maybe in other places you could grab this state grant or you could get some of this federal money. Here you can't. And so that's how here's how we're going to work around it and get creative and what that means for us. So I think that was most of what I was going to say. And Cassie's going to lead us through the roadmap, a couple slides on how we got to where we are. You'll hear from the rest of the staff, and then we want to leave quite a bit of time for questions and dialogue with the board. Great, take it away. Thanks. You should probably introduce yourself better than I did.
I'm Cassie Westmoreland. I have had the opportunity to be in front of most of you before, I think. But if I am a new face, like Ashley said, I worked at the state of Colorado in the Office of Homelessness Initiatives for about 5 years. Before that, I was actually up in Greeley doing direct service work with United Way up there. So I've been on homelessness in Colorado for the better part of 12 years now, which feels interesting to say out loud. But yeah, we're going to go through, I've got my slides. We've got a team here. We're going to be tag teaming this. As Ashley said, I eat, live, and breathe this stuff. So if I say something that you have a question about or you want to ask questions as we go through, please jump in. I also tend to talk really fast. I will slow myself down, but if I'm going too fast, just flag me and I will slow down. So a little bit of goal, like level setting today. Ashley kind of covered actually most of this. We've been working on this for about 2 years now. We started with data, themes, what are we looking for? And we gave you about a year ago in August a full background report. Here's the data, here's what we're seeing, here are all of the things that are important for you all as decision makers to know. What we're doing today is an overview of exactly what Ashley said, that roadmap of the things that need to be invested in. What we don't have today are specific staffing structures, budget estimates, et cetera, because we don't want to go forth with that until we know how you all want us to go forth with that level of detail. We have ideas of what that will be, but you're not going to see that level of detail today. It builds off of what we're going to talk about today, builds off of that August presentation. So if we're going through and you have a question about, has this been here before or where did this come from, just ask and we can show what you see. I'm on slide 107 because this is actually our entire slide deck. So I could probably go back and show you the slides that you've seen before if you have a specific question. The other thing about this is that we're really looking at how to complement the efforts that are already happening. You've got a lot of folks represented here. There's a lot of work happening in Pickens County on this issue. And so we don't want to duplicate, we don't want to compete, we want to complement and fill gaps. So that's a lot of what you're going to hear today as well. So where have we been to date? I'm going to go through this, but you all as the folks who have been doing this work, please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. So right before COVID started, you all started the Pickens County Housing Stability Coalition. It was great timing because COVID was a really big challenge, obviously, especially around homelessness. That effort went on for about 5 years, really through the COVID pandemic, and I believe it winded down, whatever. Winded down as some regional work started happening. So if you've heard of the Valley Alliance to End Homelessness, that's the Pitkin, Eagle, and Garfield approach sort of to a regional response. And we're going to kind of talk about some things that happened between what took you to a regional back to a Pickens County specific response. One of the first things that happened during COVID, as you all are probably well aware, was the Safe Outdoor Space. That was funded by some COVID response dollars. Happened for about 2 years, really a public health response more than anything else. During that time, there was also a regional housing navigation effort. So there were some folks at that regional 3 county levels who were doing one of the strategies that we are going to talk about called housing navigation. We learned a lot from that. It did not work well. And I say that because the people who did it told me it did not work well. So we learned a lot from that one. We also learned a lot from an attempt at rapid rehousing in Snowmass with the Snowmass Housing Authority. The rapid rehousing is a federal program. It's a 2-year program that provides rental assistance. That one also did not work very well, according to the folks who did it. So again, we learned a lot of lessons about some of the things that Ashley was saying. You can't just sort of take a federal approach and apply it to Pickens County. There are some really interesting and important nuances. So we've learned a lot from all 3 of these efforts. In 2024, you all know you passed the mill levy that allowed workforce and housing development, I think is what it's called.
Workforce and affordable housing.
Affordable housing, thank you. That has a little bit of a set aside for some homelessness work specifically, and that's what brought SHG in. So like Ashley said, we started in 2024 really digging into what data you have, what data you don't have, and what to do about that data. And then we came to you on the 19th of August in 2025. So like Ashley said, that's the last time you have heard from us, and this is our next sort of piece. In 2025, we talked about I'll come back to this. We talked about really, it was a snapshot of what's happening in your community. We didn't have any recommendations or anything specific at that point in time.
Chad, do you want to jump in on this slide at all?
Sure. Chad Petters, Senior Services. Just a little bit going back a little ways to the Safe Outdoor Space and the coalition building. Yes, I think we learned a lot of lessons like what you were saying. We learned a lot of things that weren't working. I think an important thing to remember both at those stages and even the decade before that is it was about building relationship and connection with all the other entities up and down the valley that are doing pieces of this work. Like the challenge that we learned through creating the Stability Coalition and the Outdoor Space Now, no one entity was doing all the services. It was public health, it was human services, it was nonprofits up and down the valley, which is a great asset of our community, and it does create some challenges. So building up this coalition, even informally in those early years, before most of our times, really laid the groundwork, fast forward about 20 years to kind of where we are now. And that none of us are experts at this type of work, and thus we're bringing in our partners here to help us compile all this information, compile partners together to have maybe a little more solid approach based in that work. Then we're doing really good work, and we're doing the best we can with the expertise level that we have, which is just frankly not really housing and homelessness.
I will say there's one thing missing here that I think Francie will remember more than most of us, but in 2024 in Carbondale, there was, I forget the numbers, but close to 100 folks, refugees and immigrants who were found. I forget all the titles we used for them at the time. I think we kind of said generally newcomers. And that was a really big wake-up call, I think, for us as a region around homelessness, because what I think we would have, if you had asked anybody working in the space ahead of time, we would have said, yeah, we have a chronically homeless population that fits a specific kind of profile. And that's what we're all working towards ending, is chronic homelessness. And I think we had some really big wake-up calls when we found, close to 100 folks living outside who are unhoused, and realizing this is a very different profile than what we've been working with. And we were not, we didn't have the expertise, we didn't have the response, we didn't know what to do, because there was just a very different set of needs coming from this population. And so that was another thing that really kicked Pitkin County into saying, we need a Pitkin County specific approach, because there's various people experiencing homelessness at any given time, and we need to make sure we have the systems and the services to meet them where they're at, regardless of what profile they fit. And so I think that was a big kind of wake-up call for us as well. So that's missing on there. But.
Okay. So we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of what you've heard before, just to do some level setting. Before we begin, we want to talk very specifically about the data, because there's some interesting nuances with data. The data that we're looking at comes from what's called HMIS, Homeless Management Information Systems. It's a federally required database, so anybody who gets money from HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, is legally required to use HMIS, which is great because it gives you a lot of information about the folks who are in that program, but it's limited to the folks who are in that program. Right now, you all have two services that are in HMIS. It's your street outreach work, and it's your it's your emergency shelter work. So that's going to be that chronically homeless population. That's going to be people who are literally homeless, who are over at the Recovery Resources Shelter, or who are being identified by outreach workers who are going to encampments and places like that. That's not going to have a full picture of your homeless population. Like Ashley said, newcomers aren't going to be in that system. Folks who are at the precipice of homelessness aren't going to be in that system. The other thing about this is that your system is pretty young when you think about a coordinated response. A lot of the money in the programs that you have came out of COVID. So they really were that crisis emergency, the federal dollars kind of flooded these systems. And because of that, you had a pretty steep increase of HMIS data entry, but that data only goes back about 6 years. So we have a lot on that smaller population and in that last 6 years or so, but outside of that, to Chad's point, the data lives in every single organization that's doing the work, and there's not one sort of robust place to keep and collect that. Also, as a data analyst, people categorize things completely differently, and the data comparison is just absolutely undoable. So we're going to talk about a lot of what we've heard anecdotally, what we've seen in this HMIS system, but please know that that's one of the bigger gaps, is the lack of data across all of the great partners who are doing this work.
Can I ask
Yeah, of course.
what year was the HMIS system enacted?
In Pitkin County?
No, federal.
Oh, in the 1990s.
Wow, way back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would have thought was in someone's recent term in office.
Nope.
Way back.
Yeah,
Interesting.
way back. It started with the Hearth Act in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this, again, is coming from HMIS. These blue bars show the number of folks who are enrolled each year. 2021 is, you only had data for about 6 months, so that's a guess. Same thing with 2026, because you only have data for about 6 months, because it's July. You do see some fluctuation in the total numbers who are counted in HMIS. What you don't see much fluctuation in are those darker blue and orange bars. That darker blue bar represents chronic homelessness. So the definition there, homeless for a year or more and has at least one disability, mental, physical, behavioral, etc. That has not changed over time. You have that group of folks in your community, less than 50, so it's manageable, but they are, I'm sure you know many of them or recognize many of them. The orange bar is folks who have identified a disability. That is a self-report disability, so take that with a grain of salt. I would imagine that might actually be a little bit higher. But again, those numbers haven't really changed in terms of the total percentage of people in that population who have these needs. What we think the fluctuation in these lighter blue bars is more of a representation of money. So 2021, there was a lot of federal money that required HMIS data entry. That went away in 2022, and then in 2023 and 2024, you had ARPA hit, which also required HMIS data entry. So I think you can look at those more as a reflection of what dollars required HMIS data entry as opposed to an actual fluctuation in your homelessness population, because we see this consistency with the folks with higher vulnerability needs. When we look at the data, we see a couple of key characteristics. About 1 in 3 are chronically homeless in Pitkin County. That matches national trends. You're probably a little bit higher, but trends are also kind of going a little bit higher, so there's nothing really kind of outstanding there other than that's, 30% of folks are chronically homeless. That's significant in and of itself. About half have a physical disability. Again, mental, physical, behavioral, just some sort of disability. About half of your folks have experience with that. In the HMIS system, the vast majority are individuals. So it's not families, it's not children, it's sort of single person households. And the vast majority are not exiting to a housing destination. So they're coming to a service because they're homeless, they're exiting that service back to homelessness. You've got kind of this cycle that's happening. That is very much likely because you have outreach and shelter as your 2 key services that are being offered right now. Neither one of those really resolve homelessness unless you have housing connected to them. But still, you kind of see this churn. The vast majority of people that are in the HMIS system have been experiencing homelessness for more than a year in the Valley. So, a little bit about what we talked about before. Ashley hit on this. Housing costs here exceed the limits for most federal rental assistance programs. So if you've heard of fair market rent is a joke, I think, in places like the Roaring Fork. But unfortunately, the federal government says you cannot use our dollars anywhere above a fair market rent. Fair market rent for Pitkin, if I can remember off the top of my mind, for a 1-bedroom is like $1,800 a month. So it's just, you can't find units that can use those dollars. So there are dollars available to Pitkin County, but you guys can't use them. That's part of the reason why some of those other efforts have failed, because they literally could not find landlords who were incentivized to drop their rents low enough to be in this program. There is a great, huge supply of affordable and workforce housing here, but for folks who have disabilities or who can't or don't work full time, there's not enough options. And so that's part of why you see this high representation of people with disabilities in your homeless population. We've heard a lot that people want to be working, they want to be in APSHA housing, they've been here for a long time, but they can't because they're retired or they've had a medical challenge or something like that has happened. They're part of your seasonal economy, et cetera. The biggest, broadest thing that we see, and Chad hit on this a little bit, there's not a coordinated pathway to housing. There's not a coordinated pathway out of homelessness in Pitkin County, in the Valley. People are working on that, but you kind of see that in the data that there's not an off-ramp. So as people come into homelessness, if they don't have sort of intrinsic social support networks, they often get stuck in that cycle because there's not an off-ramp that we see right now. So that's what we talked about in August. Any questions about that before we jump to the roadmap? Okay. So,
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
You're using Pitkin County and the Valley interchangeably. Is HMIS data specific to Pitkin?
Specific to Pitkin County, yes.
Okay.
And I think the interchangeable examples are where Pitkin matches the Valley. I think when I say Pitkin, you can think of that as something that is not connected, thank you, to the Valley structure. Does that make sense? Okay. Chad hit on this. This is just a visual representation. What we have seen is that every single provider that we have talked to is doing something about housing. They have people who need housing, and they are all sort of trying to piecemeal a response together. What we don't see is a strategic, coordinated leadership effort, and that's part of why things still kind of feel sporadic and still feel kind of apart. We know that you need a clear vision in order to actually effectively move, especially places with multiple jurisdictions, toward homelessness resolution. So just a visual representation of what Chad said. Not to be disrespectful of the people who have been doing this work for a long time. Folks are just trying to do what they can with what's coming at them.
That picture is worth 1,000 words.
I really like it. The next ones are screenshots of the roadmap itself. So there's a lot of information in there, and I can't animate it to make it more digestible. So I apologize in advance. But this is one of Ashley's favorite visuals. So we have it in here twice. The colored boxes behind are a representation of the standard continuum of services for any place that is dealing with homelessness. Starting on the far left, you have people who are going to have the highest need. You can kind of think about those folks as folks who are never really going to be able to maintain housing on their own, or who are going to need a heck of a lot of support to be able to do that. Traumatic brain injury, serious persistent mental health, stuff like that. On the right, you've got just sort of the general increased availability of housing, kind of that market rate response. What we're showing you here is sort of the number of people that fit within each of these needed services in Pickens County. So like we showed earlier, you've got about 40 to 50 people experiencing chronic homelessness. They're very likely going to need that high level of support. You've got this middle chunk of about 100 to 150, depending on how many dollars you have in your system. These are going to be people who are very likely sleeping in places not meant for human habitation, so cars, camping, couch surfing, if you will, like families who are doubled up, many people in one home. Those folks are very likely going to need some sort of crisis intervention, but will then be able to self-resolve for the most part. What we don't know, and again, just to be clear about the data, is the at-risk. There are probably a lot of folks at risk in Pickens County, or a lot of people who would like to be in Pickens County because they work here, but they can't because it's too expensive. So that's where that data sort of lives across many different providers, but that's an idea of sort of what your need is across a quote-unquote standard continuum of services.
And I like this slide. Thank you, Cassie. Because I think, back to my previous point of, I think in the past we've had a narrative about what the profile is of those experiencing homelessness. And so if you hear we have close to 200 individuals who are experiencing homelessness, you might think that's a lot, that we need permanent supportive housing. We need some large infrastructure and housing with all these services for 200 people. We can't do that, Ashley. That's way too much. I like how this breaks it up because it really says, there's a chronically homeless population that does need that has higher needs. And there's a large percentage of the total population that needs services, but it's a very different type of service. So this, to me, helps us understand, there's not one service that's going to solve this. There's a specific service or a specific solution for each population. And at that, we kind of chip away at the total numbers. So that's why I like this. I hope that communicates that well to you all. The point of that being Pickens County's response we're about to talk about is going to be incremental, is going to be slow. We're going to pilot test things. We're going to start with a very short term, let's try some things. And permanent supportive housing may be in our future, may not be, but we're certainly not talking about a capital solution here today. We're talking about tweaking some existing services, working with providers to connect them to other things. We're talking about, this more incremental approach, which will eventually get those numbers down so that we are focusing on those higher dollar amounts and those higher needs once we've tried some other things. So I don't want you all to see this and think, we're talking capital solutions today. We're very much talking like service-based solutions, some of which we're already doing and just need to be tweaked a bit.
Which brings me to my next slide, which is also a screenshot and has a lot of words and is a terrible PowerPoint visual, but is important to look at. So the way that we have kind of laid out the approach is a multi-year phased approach. At some point, if you all are serious about ending homelessness, you're going to need permanent supportive housing. You're going to need a purpose-built shelter that's not in your administrative offices. You're going to need to increase targeted units. We're not talking about those today. What we're talking about are these 3 short-term options. I think the framing of a pilot, sort of testing things out, is the right way to do that. So all of this is in the plan. We're going to go through the 3 short-term options in the next few slides, but we do have that longer-term vision in there as well for, like, you know, if you had the magic wand today and you could do it all today, this is what you would need to really meaningfully end homelessness in Pitkin County. So we're going to start with what we're calling flexible rental assistance. So the goal for flexible rental assistance is literally just flexible funding that can get people into units, right? It's a very simple idea. There's 2 primary needs for a rental assistance program. Rental assistance is one of them. That's just money to help people pay rent and the portion of their rent that they can't pay. So we're not saying we're going to pay 100% of your rent. We're just going to help figure out how you fill that gap. This is going to be for folks who have job loss, who have a medical debt issue, divorce, family breakdown, whatever that is, and something has changed and they can't pay their rent themselves. It's not rent alone, though. It's wraparound services that help stabilize to make sure that they can stay in their units once they are stabilized, right? The goal of a wraparound service, or you could say case manager or supportive services or whatever you want to call it, is literally just to keep people housed over time. So maybe they need employment. They need to find a better job, a higher paying job. Maybe they need to be in a better unit that meets their budget. Maybe they need to understand a budget. Any of those sorts of things. We call it person-centered services, so developing housing plans around the household and the family themselves, not really applying a specific, you know, here are all the goals that we're telling you to do. I think the other important piece about this is that there's going to be hard conversations in Pitkin County about where it makes sense for people to go and live based on their jobs and the trade-offs of where they live versus where they work and some of those types of things. So the program will, because it has to be federal or locally funded, this is the one program that there are federal dollars for, but you can't use them because your rents are too high. So we have to fund it locally, but that gives you the flexibility to be able to pilot, to be able to test, to be able to work on things, to work with landlords and like incentivize landlords to be part of the solution as well. Again, we're not telling you have to build your way out of this. There are units that exist. We just have to be creative about them. And we're choosing to think of it as an opportunity that you can't use federal dollars because federal dollars are very limiting in terms of what you can and cannot do with them. Okay, I'm just going to keep going until there's a specific question. That second option, if you remember sort of the orange function, is housing navigation. It sounds like what it is. It's literally specialized capacity to help people navigate the complicated housing system. So again, understanding leases, mediating with landlords, outreach to landlords. Every partner that we have spoken with up till this point is doing some sort of housing navigation. Some folks are really great at it. Some folks really struggle with it because they're doing a lot of other stuff as well. We're going to use APSHA as the example because we've talked with them, and this is actually something they've asked us for specifically is what do we do when people need help with paperwork, when people lose eligibility and have to go to a different unit. So what we've got are sort of visuals of what it looks like now without this specialized capacity versus what it could look like with specialized capacity. So something happens, a resident goes to APSHA because it's time to do their eligibility paperwork again, or they have to sign something or submit something or get backup documentation. Those are kind of the key themes that we heard. APSHA staff have to help. They have to do that. A lot of the folks that APSHA is working with, they struggle to do some of the work that is required for these types of units. Verification, background, admin, etc. And it's really frustrating for APSHA staff, we have heard, to have to spend their time when they have a full-time job trying to help people do the paperwork, make sure that people get it done correctly. When they don't get it done correctly, then they have to deal with the correction and they have to deal with, going back and doing it again. And it takes time away from their core housing tasks. It's also really frustrating for residents and challenging for residents who are in those programs who don't know what to do or how to do the paperwork or whatever it is that they need to do. And so everybody just kind of spins their wheels and there's not real help or resolution there. And what we're proposing is that specialized assistance. Then you can take APSHA out of this and put any organization who's working with people. Recovery Resources could talk with our housing navigators. The school district could talk with our housing navigators. Senior Services could talk with our housing navigators. Aspen Family Center. All of those folks need this additional capacity because all of those folks are serving people with housing needs at some point. And so what happens is we have specialized experts who know landlords, who know this work, who know how to fill these things out, who know how to help people get the documentation that they need. That takes the weight off of, in this example, APSHA staff, and puts it on people whose sole focus is housing navigation, getting people through the challenges that is finding housing. And then we have happy APSHA staff, and people have more time to actually do their jobs. Yeah. Thoughts, questions on that one?
I'll just add one additional thing for this is this APSHA's focused on APSHA with a housing navigation program. This allows it to be more than just APSHA. So when people get frustrated that they can't find housing or get through the programming, they look at APSHA as kind of their one-stop shop. And it's not. It's focused on the program. So the Housing Navigation Service allows it to expand and kind of go into other program areas, talk with Town of Snowmass Village, talk with other programs that might be available. Like Cassie said, maybe some landlords out there that aren't part of the APSHA deed restricted program that could connect residents or possible residents in there. So I think that's a huge win on that side, to be able to say it's not only focused in APSHA, which is, again, we didn't write the mill levy to only go to APSHA dollars. So that gives us that flexibility there as well.
The other important thing about this is, like I said earlier, we're not asking you to build your way out of this issue. We want, there's a program that's working right now through the West Mountain Regional Health Alliance, where they have a housing navigator who is, their job is to bring landlords to a program. And they're actually running a permanent supportive housing program, and they found 3 private landlords who are willing to rent to people who have really high needs. So there are people out there who are willing to do it, but it's challenging when, let's say I'm a landlord, I have a unit, I have a problem, who do I call? I don't know. Housing navigator. There's one phone number. Go ahead.
Do they incentivize that somehow? Like,
Yeah.
what's the motivation to do that and break away from just charging a lot free market?
Yeah, so they are paying right now, it's flexible funding as well, so they are paying that higher, that competitive rent. But they'll often do things like double, triple security deposits. They can do things that are called risk mitigation funds, so just a pot of money that's there in case there is damage as kind of like a safety net for landlords. Honestly, we've seen this in Denver. We'll see if that happens here as well. You can put money into a risk mitigation fund. It's often not used. The security deposit often covers damage from what we've seen. What helps landlords sort of sleep at night, if you will, is knowing that they have a person that they can call if and when there is an issue. That's really been the biggest point of sort of alleviating the tension in Denver.
No, thanks.
Okay. So the last sort of short-term piece that we are looking at is the emergency shelter and the outreach. Like we said, you all already have this. It's primarily funded right now through ARPA and emergency dollars. There's a couple of reasons that we are looking at how this might need to be adjusted, primarily because that funding is going away. As of the end of this year, no more ARPA dollars exist. So we have to be very creative and strategic about where that money is going to come from, what that looks like. The other piece, like I said, we want stronger housing outcomes. Most people leave the shelter and they go back to homelessness. That's not a criticism of the shelter. That's what has happened. The shelter is a crisis emergency COVID response. It's not designed as it is right now to be specifically about housing. I think the folks would love to be able to do that, but they are dealing with laundry issues. They are getting people in. They are doing the work of running a shelter. They don't have the additional support to do that housing outcome. They don't have that off-ramp like we talked about before. The other piece is that there are some real changes that are about to happen for Medicaid reimbursement in Colorado specifically, and that is going to change right now. I'm assuming you all know this, but just in case not, the shelter and the detox are physically in the same space. Everyone that I have spoken to, including the shelter operator, agrees, number one, those need to be different. The overlapping those populations is not the most effective. There are obviously overlaps in people's needs, but having them in the same physical space is challenging, is what I have heard. But also the Medicaid component of that is really going to play into how that space is funded right now. So part of what we are doing because of these three things that are happening and or about to happen is looking very critically. We're not saying you don't need a shelter. Every community needs a shelter. Somebody's house could burn down and they might need a shelter, right? We're not saying that that needs to go away. Outreach is also incredibly important. I think maybe it was Chad earlier who mentioned a lot of what we have been doing is trying to build trusting relationships with people. Part of the reason that people choose to be homeless is because they do not trust the system, because the system has not treated them well. And so they're not going to just, trust somebody off the street to help. So we need people who are, their goal is to go out, find folks, do that relationship building in order to get them into a program. But it very likely needs to look a little bit different and or is going to have to be funded differently because that money is going away soon. So that's part of our initial short-term recommendations as well. Going back to Ashley's favorite slide, just as a reminder. And then this one, I think, as just the first three there on the left are the ones that we walked through today. I think that's the majority of what I've got for you. Well, okay, we can do next steps, but we'll stop there.
So I know we're just talking about short term, but I can't help but look at the long term. So do housing centers work for homeless people? I mean, if you build something and you fill it with homeless people, does that work?
It really depends on how you do it. If you talk about permanent supportive housing as sort of like, usually they are a single site where people come and they live. Absolutely. You see 85% retention for people who were never going to be housed.
85% retention?
Yeah, after 2 years. Yeah. But that is, again, the highest level of intervention. That's a voucher that never ends. That's on-site services. That's staff who are... The example that I like to give is I worked with a property manager once who they had somebody on the third floor. That person was convinced their refrigerator was listening to them. They pushed the refrigerator out the third floor window onto somebody's car. The solution was to move them to the first floor. So the next time they push their refrigerator out the window, it doesn't do any damage, right?
Just hit the guy walking by.
That works for that population. That is the only...
But you need supportive services on site and everything.
You need very specific supportive services, and you need the long-term voucher or subsidy that keeps paying the rent, because those folks are very likely.
Where does that come from?
That comes from primarily state and federal sources right now. That's the vast majority of the funding for it. That's one of the challenges and why you guys don't have that. What they're doing right now through West Mountain is using congressionally designated funding to test it, because that does not have the limits, but that's term limited, and we have to figure out what comes after that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that we're in a good position if we're focusing on short term while the Valley Alliance to End Homelessness has that more flexible congressional funding. They're pilot testing some of these medium long-term strategies so that we can learn from them. Because I think, there's a barrier if you can do it in Glenwood, and then there's going to be an additional barrier to do it in Picken County. And so it seems like if they can test it and there's some lessons learned, then we could test some things. When I think about permanent supportive housing in Picken County, I think that if the right building came up at the right time, I understand that is where we could get some state and federal dollars, because permanent supportive housing is such a specific definition, and that's exactly what we would be offering. We would actually then qualify for some of these grants and loans and things that we typically don't, because we're Picken County. So I don't think that this is ever a buy land, build a new building solution for Picken County. This is probably when the right time comes up, maybe we're in a position to take advantage of it, or we look at the scattered site, solution, depending on what the folks in Glenwood kind of learned from their year of trial.
Yeah. To build off of that, usually, I won't get too technical, but usually the way those single site buildings are either built or renovated are through tax credits. So if you think of the LIHTC project that APSHA did do, it's things like that, where they limit
You mean for the owner?
Correct, yes, yeah. Where they limit the rent, and then you can use those state and federal vouchers because they are not private market rent, they're limited rent. And that's how you subsidize it in the long term.
Yeah, a few years ago we had an opportunity to buy a motel in Glenwood. but it didn't, we weren't able to close the deal. Somebody else
tricky.
made an offer, or something happened. I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly what happened, but anyway, and RAFTA ended up doing that for employee housing. But so that kind of situation where you already have the units, I mean, they'd have to be changed a little bit. We had to change, RAFTA had to change when they bought Roadway. Was it Roadway that we bought at RAFTA?
Red, no.
I think it was Roadway. And anyway, we had to do some work in there to make them not overnight stays, but places where people live.
Yeah.
So are there examples of that
Yes.
in western Colorado where
Yep.
people have converted like motels and stuff?
There are many. I have a slide for that. We'll go back to that just really quickly because you asked. The other thing, Francie, just to answer your specific question about like if we have people just come to one spot, the other thing about it is when you have people who need services, often they'll do like navigation centers where people can come to one place and they get human services, senior services, the school district, all literally in one spot, because part of the challenge is getting to the services. So that is also a model that has been shown to work.
That's the challenge for all of us, whether we have disabilities or not.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So these are some specific examples. I believe they're all primarily in rural resort communities is actually what we were looking at specifically. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of not only who they served, but you know, the financing structure and was it a new build or a renovation? There are many, many, many examples. Durango does a really good job of it. There's actually one out in Breckenridge that was a 9%.
I used to stay at that Best Western.
Oh yeah? Now it is a PSH project, I believe.
Huh.
So yeah, it's been done. And the nice thing about that is things are continuing to get more expensive, but Colorado is really good now at being creative about stacking and bringing enough subsidy to actually keep the cost down.
And are those considered temporary housing, or are those
No,
like
they're all permanent. They're all, the folks have a permanent in the sense of the people who are in those units have a lease in their name, and as long as they uphold their end of the lease and can continue to pay for that, then they can stay there as long as they want.
Okay.
I knew having all my slides in one spot would be helpful.
All right. Should we go back to the
Yeah.
5 of them and see if there's other questions? Other questions or thoughts on kind of the shorter term ones that we dove into in detail? If not, we can kind of share where we think we go from here.
So, I mean, I guess the question would be the capital needs for at least the short term relative to what we have in the overall housing tax. Because right now we've largely just done strategy.
Yeah.
And so, and then the other thing that's missing, sort of the follow up in this question is, there's no mention of municipalities, and I know we have one sitting in the back. So, I'm not gonna single you out. Is it
Yeah.
Braulio?
Braulio, yeah.
Good to see you. You're welcome to join us too.
I'll hang out back here.
Okay. but really,
Let's talk a little bit about-
I didn't hear mention of the municipalities. So
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but thank you for joining us.
Let's talk about municipalities, and then I can give you some context on budget and available resources. So we have historically worked on homelessness with town of Snowmass Village and city of Aspen. It's looked different through the years on who was funding which of the programs, but we have longstanding relationships with both. Through this process, SHG and county staff have been reaching out and working with both Snowmass and the city. They have both seen this roadmap, they've influenced the roadmap, they have pushed on some things, and they've been very vocal about where they'd like to go. Both have said they'd like to continue being partners in this work. We wanted to bring this to you all because this is something that Picken typically leads on, but we do not do by ourselves. So we wanted to bring it to you all first, familiarize you with the roadmap, and then one of the key next steps, we have some meetings waiting in the wings. The city and Snowmass are both really excited to hear from us and hear how this conversation goes today, and then start to really talk about, okay, where's the rubber hit the road? What do they want to fund? What does that look like? What are the priorities for each of those entities? But we're not alone in this, and I think that's been a big message from SHG is if we are alone, we can't go it alone. It takes kind of everybody moving in the same direction. So we've certainly had those conversations. I would say they've all been really positive. Like Cassie said, we've had conversations with APSHA as well as a housing partner, and not just the Town of Snowmass Village, but the Town of Snowmass Village Housing Department is interested in being a partner as well.
And
you've-
maybe you'll touch on this, but in terms of permanent supportive housing, it seemed a little fractured, for lack of a better word. If there was an opportunity, let's say a motel closed in the city of Aspen tomorrow, do we then go chase federal funding, or you have federal funding sitting there and the hotel or the motel closes? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Because it seems like that was the only opportunity where we can actually seek state or federal funds, and sort of the follow-up is there's no way to fund until the gap. In other words, if we're double the rent of what the feds allowed, could we at least seek the first 1,000 and then fill in the remainder locally?
Yeah, that's so.
Sort of two parts.
Yes, a couple of things there. Part of what makes a PSH project work well is the strategy. So part of what we are, and through Ashley's work with Castlewood, is laying out what that financing stack looks like. And the challenge is going to be getting enough. You're right. Likely what happens is there's a first seed investment, local dollars, grant, whatever that is, that you then kind of use to go out and get other tax credits. This is the worst answer that you're not going to hate the answer. It depends on the project. It depends on the cost. Because if you can do it with a 4% credit, that's much less competitive, but that's also much lower capital. If you need a 9%, you probably need to be able to wait a couple of years to be able to do it. If you're doing renovations, though, you can most likely do it with that 4%. I'm saying all of this to say part of what we're going to be doing now is just the planning for the PSH project. If something happened, there's a perfect building that comes online, we could absolutely scramble and put something together, because these models do exist and we have seen other capital stacks that have worked. I wouldn't say that's the only place you could get federal and state investment. Some of the, like housing navigation, you could probably get federal and state grants. Services for your shelter, you absolutely have federal dollars in there. Where you cannot use federal and state dollars is paying private rents in places like Bacon. That is the one area where you can't be supported. But a lot of these other services that are happening are funded through federal and state grants right now. Did that answer both parts of your question?
It does, Cassie.
Okay.
Thank you. Further questions?
I'm happy to talk about the
Francie.
resources a little bit whenever you're ready.
I have a question. It's kind of a generic homelessness question. I understand we have some homeless people unhoused people in our community who don't want to be housed. And so do they avail themselves of services, or are they independent?
What I would say, and anybody, and not to put you, do you want to answer this one? Yeah, I was gonna say, not to put you guys on the spot, but if you want to go for it, please.
I would say right now, to Chad's point, we're doing our best with the individuals who are unhoused and don't want to find permanent housing. They are seeking services, but it tends to ebb and flow. You know, sometimes they come in and they're pretty consistent, and then something happens and we lose sight of them, but then they return. So it's very inconsistent at times, but we do have a very small group that's consistent with seeking out services. So it depends on the situation and kind of who their trusted person is. Most times it's Braulio. And so he typically responds and he tries to connect them to those resources.
Yeah, I would say that.
Sorry, will you introduce yourself?
Oh, Braulio Jerez, Aspen Police Department Human Services Officer. Sorry. I don't look like an officer today.
Yeah,
I
hard
was
to
at
tell
volunteering
today.
at the community picnic. So we have had individuals that have shifted in their mindset when it comes to wanting housing and previously not interested. I can think of two currently that because if they've deteriorated slightly more and they can't sleep outdoors anymore, so they are interested and are currently on waiting lists in housing locations in Glenwood, and they are working with Recovery Resources Resilience Force, their case managers for housing. So yeah, that does shift, like Kelly said, periodically, but the majority of our individuals in our community that do want housing are already in the system, or the ones that don't are not. But they still are using services in one capacity or another.
Okay, thanks.
And if I can just add to that, and please jump in if I'm misspeaking, because I don't do this work here every day. If they're not coming to services, they're in your ER. They're in your jail. They are using services maybe in a different way than what you would define them as. And what we can do, what works is being able to, hey, do you want housing today? No? Okay, that's fine. Do you want housing today? No? Okay, that's fine. One day they're going to say yes, to Braulio's point. And what we do, to use a PSH, for example, there's one in Denver where they specifically targeted people who were identified by the police department, who were those top 50 users of police services in and out of jail. They literally built a space where people could sleep outside. They had a unit inside, but they could not sleep inside because it was too quiet, and they were not used to it, and they've been outside for however many years, and people would sleep outside until they were ready to come inside, because it's traumatic.
Mindset.
Yeah.
I
So
have,
we have to,
yeah.
we
I
have
have
to
an
be able to
individual
offer.
that sleeps on tie hack in an ice cave, in the snow, and he doesn't want housing. He's lived in Forest Service his whole life, and he feels comfortable there. Not interested at all whatsoever.
Can you touch on, while you're here, can you share your experience with Resilience Force and how it's working vis-a-vis the homeless population?
I mean, I think they do a good job. There's definitely some room for improvement. Like Cassie said, Cassie or Casey? Cassie. Like Cassie said, the space is limiting. There's the detox and the overnight shelter or resilience center all within a foot of each other. So that does make it more difficult to cater to one individual that may be using both services, but not always at the same time. Yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement there. I will say that their case managers are very dedicated, especially their street outreach. Natalie, who I interact with the most on the street outreach side, is diligent about, I give her a call, hey, this individual is interested in going to rehab. Can you work on paperwork with him or her? So yeah, it's sometimes very difficult to just even motivate individuals to want to choose this path or another. But I think working individually with the case managers, with Resilience Force, with all our other nonprofits and partners in our community, we are able to make some connections. It's not, like Chad said, it's not seamless. It lives in different worlds at times, and you have to push a little bit to get those supports. But if you want something to happen and the individual is motivated, we make it work. But it could be more seamless and more, straightforward.
It's also not best practice to have shelter in an admin building. I think it's okay to say that, right?
Yeah.
We're doing what we can with what we have, and it's just hard.
Yeah, I was always supportive of the permanent supportive housing model. I know of models in New Mexico that have done very well, but it took them 10 years to establish that. 10 years of working with landlords, 10 years of working with community partners. It's hard work, and it takes time.
Thank you. Further questions?
Yes, speaker.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Wait, there's questions.
Putting you on the spot.
You joined us in disguise. I definitely didn't recognize you.
I wanted to ask about rental assistance. The Aspen Skiing Company, Aspen One, has a rental assistance program to house their ski instructors, because they can't find housing for their employees and ski instructors and restaurant workers and all that. So they've established a program in the community that works for a fairly large number of people. Similarly, in the summer, the Aspen Music Festival does that to house music students as well as workers with the festival. And so we've already got two established programs in the community that we would possibly be competing with, or perhaps we could learn something from. And I'm just wondering, has there been any synergy with them? Perhaps it might be worth investigating that if you haven't. And then second, I'm just wondering, what sort of staffing do we already have in place that could take this sort of thing on? Because, of course, when I read it, I see, okay, a housing navigator, how many people is that? Rental assistance program, who's going to run that? I'm looking at it thinking, wow, this is, a number of FTEs, so there's a financial hit just to staff it to serve what still is a fairly limited number of people. And so I'm wondering, where's where does the efficiency of scale kick in? Because right now, we're gonna have to build a system that can accommodate a lot more people, it sounds like, than we actually have. You know, and it's gonna be really expensive per customer, per client, how you refer to them. It's gonna be really so that's what I'm swirling around the back of my head. So I'm hearing this going, yeah, I can see the strategy. If we had unlimited funds to throw at it, it would make sense to do this. But I'm also thinking this means 5 new FTEs, or I don't know. I don't want to go there
Before
yet.
you go
Ashley's
there.
told us not to go there.
And an
But
office space, and a building, and a.
So
well, yeah, you know, so what are we looking
Yeah.
at here, and
So-
how many people are we really serving?
we're really just talking short-term programming right now. So those three.
And that's the rental assistance.
That's
right?
yeah, flexible rental assistance program, housing navigation, and tweaking the existing outreach and the existing shelter and how they work. When we think about those three short-term programs, we've been using the word pilot testing, feasibility study, 2 flexible rental assistance programs, like 2 people getting that would tell us a lot. So like very small numbers to start because we have a lot to learn. Growing into the total number of folks that we could serve is upwards of 200, over 200. So I think Cassie would probably jump in and say, we don't see the cost on our balance sheet right now, but we are paying the cost of not addressing this. So yes, there is some upfront money that comes from the county, but we're paying that right now in PACT dollars, in all sorts of other
Emergency response.
emergency response. You're
ER
seeing it
visits.
everywhere, right?
That was my next question: is are we really? If you talk to the ER, what are they going to tell you about, homeless patients? What's the? You've got that data. It looked like I was finding some of it in there, but there's a caveat that says we're not like other communities, but the national trend is X, and I'm familiar with all that. But how close are we to? How much of Braulio's time is spent? I guess all of his time is spent on
100% of your time.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. So to use a concrete example, the PSH project that we're piloting for the Valley has a half-time staff person right now, and they're serving up to 8 of the highest needs people. The idea being, we're not trying to build, like I said at the beginning, we're not trying to build this all from scratch. We are trying to connect to Chad's office, to Kelly's office, to Braulio's office, because it's the gaps where people are falling. So it's really not about building it all in-house. We probably aren't even going to be recommending Picken County staff. We're actually going to be recommending that we have nonprofits use we give the money to the nonprofits who know the work and can do the work and can build that capacity at the nonprofit level, because those are the folks who are the experts for the vast majority of it. I mean, we are all also experts, but we're not telling you to add county staff for a lot of this stuff. It's going to be more of giving recovery resources, money for the shelter, giving, Aspen Family Connection, whoever, money for the different components of it where they are the experts and where they have identified, we would like to do this, because there are folks who are like, we would love to do more rental assistance if we had the money, but they also don't have the money. We would love housing navigation if we had the money. So it could be, $100,000 to this organization for a 0.5 FTE for 2 years. You know what I mean? We can piece it out that way. That's part of what we need to figure out, is actually, to Ashley's point, go to folks and say, okay, we're ready to go. Here's what we've got. What can you take on, and what does that look like? We have not been operating above the $500,000 that's been allocated through the mill levy, where we can make these flexible as we need to, but we're not suggesting that you all build it from the ground up at all.
Heard that. Yeah.
So to that
Some
point,
wrap-up comments?
I was just going to share what we. Braulio's back.
I just wanted to share, you mentioned Ski Coast program and Aspen Music School. I think the only reason that those programs work so well is that they have the units available, because it's seasonal. People moving from Maralt and at the end of the season, then you bring in the music school students. Burlingame Phase 1, Maralt, those are 2 massive complexes that they can house several
And they have
people.
money, then they have cash to put in.
Yeah.
Or ski passes. That's a currency here.
But those are the
Thank
folks that
you.
we'll be working with, so thank you for that recommendation.
All right, real quick. Picken County has the Affordable Housing Mill Levy that collects $8.5 million a year. In the 2026 budget, the board approved $500,000 in a line item specifically for this work, specifically for homelessness services and homelessness response. The first three, the short-term things, can be done well under that $500,000. So if the board is kind of moving in this direction, in 2026 budget, we had shown $500,000 for the next 5 years to try and start again. In 2026, we have that money. We're going to use barely any of it, because if we get one rental assistance program between now and the end of the year, that would be amazing. If we get a little bit of housing navigation support off the ground by the end of the year, that would be great. 500,000 is about 6% of the total affordable housing mill levy, which when we did meet in a housing retreat a couple months ago, we talked about making sure that we were spending, the mill levy is able to be used across many, many uses. And the board had kind of expressed an interest in like staying under 10% for homelessness services and capital reserve programming. So this stays well under that kind of limit that the board had casually set, but kind of we've been using as a guide for staff. So we can chat about this more. I know we are at time, Chair. We wanted to just answer your questions and have you have this dialogue. So I think we accomplished what we were hoping for today. I'm sure you all have more questions. It will not be another year before we get back here. We are, Cassie and SHG are under contract with the county through the end of 2026, and they're going to start calling all these partners and saying, okay, what's actually real? What's it going to take? And then we'll come back to you all and check in before we are moving forward.
Quick thought, parting thought. Can the county, and I'm looking at Kara also, can the county provide an incentive to people who might be remodeling their home? Because as we know, this community is full at any given time. There may be 20% of the homes are empty. Can we somehow incentivize people to open their homes up, say they're to a remodel, incentivize them by fast tracking a permit? Or I'm just throwing ideas out, just thinking, is there some incentive we can offer to get people, to put people in their homes, whether they're a worker or a homeless?
So I would parking lot that, because that will come through following your comp plan, because that concept, who you choose to house, right, but that concept is embedded within the Vision 2050, and I'm going to get all the groups. The Vision 2050
Right.
recommendations is how do we look at incentivizing remodels or residential programs so that we can keep those houses for local housing needs. So I don't think it was necessarily thought maybe as directly that you're going, but I think it's along the same line, and that you really have that avenue through the land use code as incentives.
There's a model in Eagle that we've already interviewed. Oh, but I keep forgetting. Is it on? Okay. There's a program in Eagle that we've already talked with that did just that with some flexible funding. So,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Casey, thank you. And to the team, if you need someone from the board to represent the board at either the Aspen meetings or the Snowmass meetings, we'd welcome to hear the other part of the conversation. Because again, I think it'd be really helpful to hear the municipal feedback as well as sort of the unincorporated. So thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. It's a big problem to crack. I trust you.
Smaller than in other communities. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah.
So Matt, you're going to present on behalf of Gary.
Oh, he's hiding in the corner.
For those that sit in the audience, you know where the camera does not see you.
Right, yeah. The anon section. Mo, while they're setting up Jeffrey, offline comment.
Can you elevate me? Thanks, boss.
What do you think?
Guess they're ready.
You're coming right up here. Why? Fine. Be the Sam and Gary show.
They just don't want us to kill it before we get a chance to say, I appreciate that, but there ought to be a.
Hello.
Guys, what have you done now?
Nothing yet. We're getting there.
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
been
It has.
half a summer.
We were hanging out at the Bells. We had a good walkabout.
I heard that.
Yeah, we could see the weed mats coming through the gravel. It was cool.
You got the osprey coming down.
Got the osprey
Come
fishing.
on,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
My bird, I told,
Have you
asked
named
that bird
it?
to do that.
Did you name it? It's called
Belle,
Bell. Perfect.
come on, Gary.
Sorry.
The other ones are Emma and Emmett and Bridge and Bridger. Bridget and Bridger.
That's pretty good. I have to be more site specific on my bird naming. Okay.
Sam and Gary,
Right.
the floor is
Ready?
yours, please.
Hi, I'm Gary Tennenbaum. I'm the Director of Picken County Open Space and Trails. And today I'm with Sam Massman, who's with the Forest Service. You have a lot of different titles, I think. Are you still the
I'm the Forest Recreation Program Manager for the White River National Forest.
Okay. You're not acting district ranger?
I am
anymore?
not. No, I'm
Okay.
done with that.
Cool. And so today, we're here to kind of give you an update of where we're at with Maroon Bell's special use permit. The big piece of today is really to talk about the community engagement. Because when we talked to you back in May, you know, part of the piece of the puzzle is how have we engaged the public? And how are we engaging the public? And to make sure that when this does come up for your adoption, that you guys know that there's been a huge amount of engagement public process to date. And so today we're going to talk about, you know, one of the biggest things we have done with the forest is the Maroon Bells Comprehensive Recreation Management Plan. And it's been a while, so I just want to go through that with you guys because you guys were part of that conversation. You know, we split that cost of creating that plan with the Forest Service, and we had the Volpe do that. And so trying to go through that to show you how this aligns with the special use permit and all the public engagement that was part of it. You know, we're doing a ton of coordination with our partners, and we got a lot of them. And I have a whole big sheet of them. And so some of them are in the room. We got the city. I think Dave is here with RAFTA. Obviously the forest and a lot of others that we've been talking to over time. And, you know, the reservation system is run through RAFTA, through a company, H2O, and they do an annual survey every year, and they've been doing it for a while. It helped informed the CRMP, the Comprehensive Recreation Management Plan, and also helps us inform every year. So they're doing the survey right now. They did one last year. We'll kind of show you some of that, and then show you how the special use permit aligns with the management plan, and then go through next steps. So I'll give this over to Sam.
So I was just going to do a little background on the Comprehensive Recreation Management Plan and, you know, how we got to doing that. You guys are familiar with the U.S. Department of Transportation Volpe Center, who has facilitated our Maroon Bells working group for a number of years. And this was sort of the beginning of that back in 2021. Coming out of COVID, we had the crazy visitation spikes. We had a new reservation system at the Bells. We had had years of increasing visitations and concerns about sustainable management. And so we brought in Volpe Center to help us develop, you know, a plan that was driven by the partner group who's been managing the Bells for all this time. And to help us have public engagement and feedback be a part of what we developed. And so that plan took place, you know, a bunch of engagement with stakeholders and public took place over the course of 2 years in 2022 and 2023 to sort of drive us towards the longer term goals of how do we manage the Bells sustainably. We cost shared on, as we have since then, on hiring Volpe Center to facilitate our group and produce the plan and run the public engagement. This group, you want me to pass that over? I'm rolling into your slide here. You want me to keep going?
You got it.
This beautiful graphic of all these partners, so that as we went into the comprehensive rec management plan, we split off into a kind of group of core stakeholders, which is the county and the forest and the town and SKICO, and this core group of folks who are ACRA, who are managing the area day to day. We created an advisory committee, which included some of the partners you see up here, and then we engaged the public beyond that. Go ahead, Gary. We had a series of public meetings as a part of it, 6 public meetings, in addition to our core group meeting monthly over the course of 2 years, at our advisory group meeting almost monthly over the course of 2 years. We checked in with you all, the county commissioners and other elected officials, every 6 months, so 4 times over 2 years. And we generated 8,000 comments through this and the annual surveys that H2O did for folks who had visited the Maroon Bells.
So, with all the stakeholder input that was gotten, you know, the big pieces of the puzzle, the big pieces of the puzzle are, you know, as we've been talking about, it's not shocking that transportation and access management of the actual site and maintaining those facilities up there. And then obviously there's a huge safety component, because the health and safety of people, with the amount of people that go up there, is a huge component of it. So we really, you know, when you look at this CRMP, it kind of sets the stage for how we partner with the Forest Service up at the Bells. And then we take all the survey data, and I'm not going to talk about this slide. I'm actually going to talk to Ben, who created this slide, because this is a tough one. But it just shows how much data has been collected to date on this, and how much information we are processing to try to manage the Bells, you know, to be able to manage it sustainably over the long run. And you know, the reality is now we're getting to a point where our partnership with the Forest Service is about to expand, because what we're lacking is the ability to manage the Bells the way the management plan was really created. And so, you know, when you look at some of this stuff, is the vision was proactively and sustainably manage users, access and infrastructure to provide positive, equitable outdoor recreation experiences while preserving the resources in the Marine Creek Corridor. It was great for us to go through this, because it's actually what we've been talking about with you guys up to this point, is why should Pickens County take over the management of the Bells through a special use permit. And it just totally aligns with the visions and goals of this plan. And it really will allow us to ensure that we sustainably manage this in the future. And we collect enough revenue to manage this. And so, you know, we're still working on the operations plan. We're still working on what the fees will be. We'll be bringing that back to you. We heard it very clearly that we want to keep this access accessible, affordable, and, you know, we need to find new ways to deal with some of the costs. Parking is a big one. Because parking costs are, when you put parking costs on top of, you know, what the access fee for the shuttle, it's a big deal for people. So how do we work together on providing options on that? So we hear it from the public every year. We've taken a ton of engagement to date. And so, you know, right now we're working towards this permit that you guys will see, and we're looking to bring that back for adoption in September. And then to kind of give you what the future will look like is 2027 is really that transition year. It's really, the greatest thing about this special use permit is the Forest Service doesn't step out. It's a partnership, and they're going to help us transition to this management piece. And the goal will be to continue to implement this management plan that was created years ago, and to continue to use, this survey to help inform 2028 changes, because 2027 is a transition year. Is we want to increase the level of service. We were up there. You see how much, the bathrooms weren't open, and we had fabric coming out of the trail, and there's a lot of noxious weeds, and it's just we just don't have the people to truly manage it yet. So the goal is to increase the level of service, see where we're at, because the goal is always to get to the high level of service that this community expects, and what really that place deserves. And so, and then adjust the fees annually to ensure that we can manage it. The beauty is the county doesn't need to make a profit ever. We just need to cover our costs. And I think we can do that in a way that keeps these fees, affordable. And we've been working with RHTP on shuttle fees, and our goal is to keep them the same as this year to next year, and really, look at other fees as ways to increase. And to be honest, to give you kind of a preview, what we've learned is $10 fee was set up in 1998 and has never been changed since 1998. So if you just do inflation, that's over $20. And so anyway, it's just one of those things where we need to align all of those pieces of the puzzle. So really the question to you guys is do you have any questions on the public engagement to date, and public engagement that you would love us to, questions that you want us to answer before we come back in September?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this. I think it's come up at our site visit and others. As you say, the fee hasn't changed in a decade or more. The bus fare may be quite low compared to other similar services in other parks and other areas. Whenever I hear us talk about running it at a deficit, how we're 300,000 or so in the hole, I'm inclined to say, well, is there some way we can make this more self-sustaining? And so I'm hoping that the questions you ask of the community and the information you bring back to us is what's reasonable, and what can people expect to pay for a similar experience in Zion or in Moab or in Yellowstone or wherever, because I get the feeling is that we're afraid to even bring it up, and I don't want to be afraid to bring it up. I want to charge the fair rate and hopefully make it sustainable, because that's the direction I perceive we are being forced to follow by the lack of federal support. So I'm hoping we have really good information on that, and you guys are brave enough to tell us what you really think about what it would cost. And maybe there are ways we can come up with efficiencies and make it less expensive for the visitor to go there. Solving the parking problem at the Highlands is a huge one. If we can take $50 off people's bills for going to the Maroon Bells just by parking at Brush Creek, that's already a huge win. But that doesn't mean we have to give away or subsidize the other services to such a great extent. So that's what's going on in my head when I think about this. And I know you're going to come up with the right solution. I hope I'm not getting out in front of you or anything, but those are my concerns.
Well, it's good that those are all, great concerns, because that's why we've been working really hard behind the scenes, because we can't operate as a deficit. This is going to be an enterprise fund. The goal is to make sure that we cover our costs 100%. And so, what fee changes that we need to make will be justified based on the Forest Service is going to help us compare all those costs, because in the end, all the costs that we propose have to be in relation to everything else that's around here. And so we'll get a big list of all the costs for comparable sites in the White River, at Rocky Mountain, and other places, so you can compare those to what we're proposing at the Maroon Bells. And in the end, you guys are going to make the decision on what fees go up and what fees don't. And so, I don't think staff is not scared of bringing this to you. I think staff is concerned about affordability and accessibility to our public lands. And it's been a big theme for Pickens County is to make our public lands accessible and affordable and try to not charge fees where we don't have to charge fees. This is one place that does, but it takes a lot more work to manage the bells than it takes to manage other places. And so with all of that, to take care of the bathrooms and to get people on shuttles and stuff, we're just covering costs. And the beauty is we have a great partner with RHTP, and the partnership with RHTP has been great, and they're not making profit off of it either. No one's trying to make a profit. And so, and the parking piece is a big one. I think the EOTC is a huge partner here because they created the flyer. And that has basically taken away a cost for people because a lot of people drive in. And as you saw the H2O data, I included it, you can see a lot of people just drive in for the day. And if you could stop them at Brush Creek, they park for free, they don't add to the traffic issues that are coming into town, and then they go up to the bells, they do their thing at the bells, and they can then take a bus into the city and potentially spend some time in the city. And then they can take a bus back to Brush Creek. There's so many options. We're and I have a lot of the communication people behind us. We're excited to start ensuring that communication gets out to the
Yeah,
public.
that's what I was gonna ask, if I could. Yeah, so that's complicated to get to there. So, and I did see some comments about we need improvement on how you make your reservations, how you get there, where you park, the cost at high, all of those kind of logistical ways of getting there. So how do you get that out? How do you say, oh, well, if you're staying in Carbondale, you get on the bus and you ride to Brush Creek and you get off the bus and then you get on a bus called the Flyer and you ride to there and then you get off and you get on the shuttle. It's complicated.
And that's, I mean, honestly, that's one of our goals, is I don't know if we'll get it right in year one, but one of our goals, and we've heard it from a few of you, especially Ted too, is just we need to make it very clear how you access the bells.
Yeah.
We do, and it's not super clear right now, and that's why I got a lot of the communication people in the room. We have the city of Aspen to help us, and we're really looking at a way to go, okay, how do you create that, kind of the way to have people go, okay, if I come from Carbondale, this is what I do. If I want to drive, these are the options. We got to create that, and we are going to work on that pretty hard before we implement this next year. And it'll be a work in process.
And you aren't starting from zero. Those were some of the same comments that we heard in the Comprehensive Recreation Management Plan as well. And our group for the last several years since then has split into sort of an operations group that meets monthly and coordinates everything from small changes in the reservation system to its own website to no-show fees to some of the changes you've seen more recently, to our long-term planning group who has spent the last couple of years kind of aiming towards this special use permit with these same questions and comments from the public in mind. So
It's a
you
big
don't
task
have to
go
start
through.
from zero, but it is a complicated task.
It's a complicated task, but we're ready to tackle it, and that's why, what this special use permit process has really shown us is that we can't just rely on the forest or one entity to make those communication pieces work. We got to work as a team. So, part of the operations we started a communications team, so that's going to be moving forward in the future on how to do everything that Francie just asked and make that part of our standard operating procedure so people get it.
Commissioner Clapper.
Yeah, so enterprise fund, we currently don't have one set up through open space and trails, correct?
Well, it would be, the enterprise fund won't be open space and trails. The enterprise fund is going to be a Pickens County enterprise
But it'll have
fund.
to be a separate fund, so I would like to have information brought back as to how we set it up in the time frame.
That'll become, when we come for the
Okay,
you're gonna get
perfect.
that whole piece. That's why Liz is sitting over there.
I know.
And she's gonna show you
I
everything.
start grinning
Yeah.
when moment I mentioned it, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's one thing. The second thing is the flyer, which doesn't go to Highlands. I think the flyer, because, I don't know, does it go to Highlands? Because I know the
Brush
people
Creek
at the
to
hospital
Highlands.
upset because it doesn't go to the hospital. Oh, people tell me that it doesn't and they don't know where to
It's-
get
The
it.
hospitals, the
So-
schools, and the Highlands.
Then we need to educate the people at the hospital that they can take the flyer because they
Okay.
don't understand
It's a
it.
brand new
That's
service.
good to hear.
And David's in the back row, but for those of you in the room, the sandwich board actually describes all the stops, that if you get off at Brush Creek, it describes the stops. I think the only criticism I'd say is the
Well,
hours.
these are people who might not be getting off at Brush Creek because they didn't know they had a way to get to the hospital.
Yeah, that's just.
So
those are
that's
the
a communication
piece,
issue that
yeah.
needs to get out there, because those are things I'm hearing. I don't live at that end of town, so I don't utilize it. I think it's a great idea, just as long as people know they can take it from point A to point B and not have to catch another bus in between. That would be great. The other thing is, I want to give RAFTA huge kudos. When we were just at the conference in New Orleans with the National Association of Counties, we met with Gail from the Federal Transportation Authority. She raved about our RAFTA services. They just got another huge grant. I don't know if there's a possibility. RAFTA is ranking pretty high with FTA right now, of some funds coming from there for maybe capital for more buses or something else we might need as we move forward with the transportation issues with the bells. So that's just to flag that. Did you get Gail's business card, Jeffrey?
I did not.
Okay, we can find
Through
out her
Sabrina.
direct contact. She could not say enough about our transportation system in the valley. And I think she'd be a great ear to bend about, can we find some funding for this new program? So I'll make sure you get that contact info. Okay, thanks.
Greg and then Ted.
I'm only going to say it's the best rural transportation district in the country and the largest. I'm saying that for David's benefit, but for all of you as well.
She thought it was, I mean, she couldn't say enough
Yeah,
good stuff.
oh no, Rafta's got pretty high marks. Thanks, David, thanks for being here. My next question was just about, I chair the RAFTA board meetings, and I brought this up at the last RAFTA board meeting, and Kurt's response is, well, you might know more about this than we do regarding how will RAFTA and Pitkin County and the Bells operation work together, and what can you tell us about that?
We've been working, as Dave's here, I mean, we're working pretty closely with them on, you know, the special use permit will be Pitkin County. So in the future, all of those pieces of the puzzle, the shuttle, reservation systems, everything, the county's gonna manage all of that. So, but
And
the
that'll be the
beauty of
enterprise.
having RAFTA is they're a great partner. They've been covering things that the forest couldn't handle, like the reservation system and the youth corps contracts and stuff. We'll be transitioning those over time to the county. But in the meantime, as we work this stuff out, they've been an incredible partner
Right.
to date. And I will be going to the RAFTA board with Scott Mattice in September,
Great.
after your first reading, but before your second reading.
Great.
So we can get their feedback to you before second reading.
That's
And
great.
so
And will the enterprise include the bus service, the whole operation, everything to do
in the
with Maroon
future,
Bells and the
will,
service?
the enterprise fund will not, in the first year or two, RAFTA has a separate agreement with the forest to continue that. And so we'll be working on that over time, but the reality is the transition's gonna be, we're gonna take a little time on the transition piece, and then from there, you know, in the future, we'll be able to manage that. But RAFTA is always just gonna, if, as long as RAFTA wants to continue doing the shuttle service, we'll continue that with RAFTA, and we'll just, every year, they will give us their costs, and their costs will go into the shuttle fee cost. And so you guys will be setting those fees, but you'll see them every year.
Great. Well, thanks for that. That helps.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for setting things up where we're already looking at, I think the numbers are over 100,000 people not taking their cars up there every season. So it's like a pretty good starting point, or rather just to assume the lead. I was just curious if there was a strategy on how, if you're a visitor and you just kind of Google how to get up there, there's an entire page of Google results that are all different websites that all kind of have more info and different links. And sometimes you could just try it and you go to SkiCo, it sends you then to the chamber, which then you have to click another link to go to visit Maroon Bells. And I don't know if it's possible because that's maybe outside of our ability to manage search results, that is, but it's really confusing for a guest because sometimes rec.gov comes up and that's overnight, and then even RAFTA has a page of info, and I just think maybe it would be worth at least reaching out to the partners who we work with on that list to be like, can we all just get on the same plan here? Because and whether that's happened or not, I just find, even for me, the other day I was trying to just buy a downhill pass as I came down from whatever I was doing, and I was like, wow, this is, I know what I'm looking for, and it took me a little while to get there. So that was just a question if you had any plans on trying to address that part of it.
Well, the beauty, the good thing is our communications people have heard you. They're behind me, and they, that it's something that is, it's, I personally believe we have to figure out a better way to get the information to people.
Yeah.
And
Before they get here.
yeah, before they get here. I mean, it's true.
In the Maroon Bells reservations page, it tells you you can either drive or you can ride the bus. It tells you the cost of the bus.
Yeah.
Does not tell you the cost of parking at the Highlands.
Oh, okay.
Some other sites do, but yeah, it's just a minute, And
Acra's a good
Yeah, and then
resource.
it's also like, it's a little confusing, like sometimes the restaurants that do best are the ones that just have like one item for sale. It's like pepperoni pizza, and that's who wants that item, and that's what everyone really wants. And when you have too many different overnight passes, an hour, this and that, and like where do you want to park, and a lot of people don't actually know the differences between all those, and that can be kind of overwhelming too. So I think there's a benefit to streamlining the offerings to something.
Just give them pepperoni pizza.
Just give them the
Yeah.
pepperoni pizza, and everyone's kind of happy.
We get pizza up there?
Yeah, you're gonna get quoted in the paper.
That's what I'm like, do they sell pizza?
Kaya, they're not serving pizza at the Maroon Bells, just want you to know.
But don't use that analogy, or they're going to think we're doing a food concession.
Yeah.
I know.
You hear that, Kaya?
Kaya, you got
I
that?
want pineapple on my pizza, so we're.
Can I ask?
So I totally agree with you. As I've been learning more and more about the bells, I'm like, it is really confusing for people because we hear it from people, and now that I've been working with the forest and everybody else, they hear it. H2O hears it. So we've got to come up with a way. And one of the things is by creating this communications group and really continuing this communications group to really have everyone together. Hopefully we can start addressing those things because it's critical.
Gary, life is just confusing to some people, period.
I agree, but if we can make it a little less, I think
That
it
would be helpful.
huge.
Commissioner Postman.
If I could, to remind us all, originally the bus service was started to the Bells when they noticed that the foliage on the side of the Maroon Creek Road was deteriorating because of the car traffic. And as soon as we eliminated car traffic up there, the greenery came back, the foliage came back.
And then it knocked all the people off the bikes.
We've declared a climate emergency now 6 or 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And part of that is decarbonization, reducing carbon emissions. If we could eliminate carbon emissions for visitors in cars and buses to the Maroon Bells, it would be a huge, significant carbon reduction that we could share with the rest of the world as a solution. So I've been advocating on the RAFT board, as Francie will tell you, and on this board, as everyone else will tell you, that we electrify that route. I think it's doable, and nobody's demonstrated that it hasn't. And in fact, we took an electric bus up there to show that it was doable. So I'm hoping as we move forward with this plan, we continue trying to set the bar high for ourselves regarding climate action, carbon reduction, electrification. And this is within our grasp, so let's show that it can be done. Thanks.
Well, I mean, part of the special use permit will be shuttle, and the county will be in that driver's seat. It's just, as an enterprise fund,
County and
we've got to
RAFTA,
cover
yeah.
all the costs. And so it's going to take some coordination. I cannot say it would happen in 2027, but as we move forward
2028
with
then.
this, okay. But as we move forward, it's definitely something that can be a conversation, and we need to have a conversation with our partners too.
David wanted to come up.
And here's the one.
I waved at him.
start.
Thank you. I'm Dave Peasantchak, Chief Operating Officer with RHTP. On the electrification piece, we did just receive 11 new Gillig electric buses that have a carrying capacity that allows us to go up to the bells. They'll be going into service this fall, so we plan on putting those in service up at the Maroon Bells and transitioning all of those buses up over to electric. Should be sometimes in September, and then going forward, continuing those being electric.
You just made my day.
We haven't been able to do that with our.
Because I didn't even hear. I didn't even know this.
Just don't use that word in your grant applications. Climate electrification.
We won't talk about that then, but thank you.
It's great that you gave the question because you didn't tell me that information. So it's awesome.
Our current battery electric buses, before this round, we weren't able to take up there because they were only able to carry the seated capacity plus a few. And if there was a rain event, we weren't able to carry that many people back down. It exceeded the carrying capacity of the vehicles.
Yeah. More down, better, right? Recharges. And then we've
That's
got
awesome.
a charger at Public Works now that is a high-speed charger if that had to be part of the circuit. So
We anticipate that the range on these new buses, we won't need to utilize that. We'll be able to run them through an entire shift. So they're not in service yet. Fingers crossed. They're testing well. We've heard good things from other agencies. So yeah, we're very excited about this new tranche
that's
of
news I
battery
hadn't
electric
heard.
buses
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, David.
Well, he's up here if you have other RHTP questions.
stay.
who's the RHTP guy? RHTP concerns? Here's your man. I guess unrelated to the bells.
No, I mean,
No, we're not here for RHTP unrelated to the bells.
I mean, part of what we're hearing today is that we have this incredible series of assets, whether it's the Flyer or the Maroon Bells shuttle or the team that's already at the Maroon Bells. And I'm hearing the back-end coordination software is a little bit of the struggle. So in terms of the marketing and communications, but from an experience standpoint, I think it's good and can be exceptional based on some of the assets we already have at the table. So thank you.
And we've heard that, through the rec management plan, a lot of the public feedback was that they're having a good experience once they're up there, and they want us to sustain the place, right? So this whole giving a good balance between sustaining it, managing it, providing enough public access, we keep aiming for it. It's what we've been working on.
It's been incredible for me to be part of this because it's just the partnership has been amazing, and it's. You see some of them on this page, but there's more. There's just more. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see all these names up there, and I've talked to almost all of them now, and they just all believe in how special the place is, and we just need to sustain that. And doing a special use permit. I even talked to Wilderness Workshop, and even though they've been pushing the federal government to fund the management of public lands, they are extremely thankful that Picken County is willing to step up and do this because privatizing the management of this is not in the community's interest. So, anyway, any other questions?
On around, wrap up?
I suppose while I'm up here, just some numbers on the Flyer and connections to the Maroon Bells. I've only got numbers for the last couple weeks of June right now when the service launched. Just in that last week and a half, we moved about almost 700 people from either Brush Creek, primarily Brush Creek, but a fair number from Buttermilk as well, up to Highlands. So presumably the vast majority of those were going to connect to shuttles going up to the Bells.
And can you describe the route?
Yeah, thank you. That would be.
Yeah, so it goes from Brush Creek to Buttermilk through the roundabout, stops at the Kiss and Ride at the roundabout, then continues up to the hospital, turns around, comes back around, goes over to the high school, the Arc, and then up to Highlands, and then does that back.
Great.
So it's basically Maroon Castle from Buttermilk.
Yeah.
It's kind of a connection or combination of those two.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it goes to the hospital. Thank you.
MCB,
Yeah.
Maroon Castle, Brush Creek. Yeah, great. Thank you.
No.
When it works, it's so seamless.
Might
It's
have been the
just
shifts too.
with the
shift
shuttle
timing.
itself, it's literally your connections could be a couple minutes, so it works really well.
That's good feedback. We are still analyzing it based on the schedule that we have. So we did get feedback from the hospital and the school district when we developed the schedule, but we're still looking at numbers. So going into the fall season, we might adjust a little bit to try to make sure that all the time points are working correctly. But that if you have any feedback in terms of the time points and how that is fitting, that's good feedback for us to know right now.
I guess the big question is, why do we have a 4:30 cutoff in the middle of summer from the bells coming down? So less so for the flyer, but the
shuttle
Bell
itself.
shuttle itself is 4:30 when you're still dusk is 8 o'clock. So people are, you're going Crater Lake, you're screaming to get out of there to make that last shuttle. It's 5, sorry.
5, okay.
But it
That's
still
late,
seems, I mean, even as a skier, it seems horrendously early on a summer day.
What is the flyer hours of operation?
I need to go back to my computer to look for sure.
You can tell me later. Maybe that's the glitch with the hospital. It doesn't match with their shift work.
There's a break in the middle of the day, so we only have so much funding. So it's funded through a grant, SB 230. So it's oil and gas excise tax funds essentially that's paying for that service. And so that money only went so far. So we focused it on the AM peak and PM peak, and there's a gap midday. So that's what we're really checking out now, is to make sure that gap fits appropriately with the hospital and the school district. School hasn't started yet, so that's another big question mark.
2 weeks, the 10th.
Well, and the gap is also potentially an issue for people who go to the bells too. So all those things that we worked on.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the type of, because we want to expand it if we need to, and how do we do that? And that's kind of the conversation that we're going to have on costs.
Can the enterprise fund it?
The enterprise, well, you're not going to the bells, so it'll be a difficult thing to potentially do. Let me get that answer for you
That
when
might
we
be
come
an
back.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
What does CRMP stand for?
the Comprehensive Recreation Management Plan.
I'm not gonna remember that.
We'll remind
It's,
you.
yeah, so it's the what we call the management plan for the bells.
Okay. Well, I
Make it-
figured that's what it was. I just didn't know
Right,
what it
just
stood for.
yeah, I mean, we work in acronyms all the time.
I already forgot.
Yeah.
Comprehensive recreation. Okay.
Wrap up comments or questions.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
We'll
you
be
for
that
joining
bus
us.
system in the west.
Kim, we are on break.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have something to give to the Forest Service.
two. Okay, back to your positions. Okay, roll camera.
Good? Okay, Mike's gone the whole time. Probably mistakenly done. It is 3 p.m. Tuesday, July 28th, and we have an update on the Clean Heat project at the library and the Health and Human Services, aka HHS. Kevin Warner, you're on deck.
Thank you. And we do have Michael Port online with us as well. And so my name's Kevin Warner, Assets and Construction Management. And Michael, I'll let you kick this off though and get us started. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, Commissioners. Michael Port, Climate Action Analyst. Excited to be here today to tag team this project update for you about our Clean Heat project at the Library and Health and Human Services, which is both a climate project but also a significant facility improvement that we've been working on over the last couple of years. Next slide, please. Kevin and I will provide you with some background, remind you of how we got here and what the purpose of this project was in the first place, share with you some of the progress on the construction and timeline and schedule and budget and all of those project management details, as well as some other last items to wrap up. We set out to electrify our county-owned buildings. The first step we took towards that was our 2019 climate action goals, where we intended to reduce our emissions 90% from 2019 levels by 2050. One of the ways that we can do that is by leading by example and implementing decarbonization in our own county buildings. We initiated a study which resulted in our facilities electrification plan that identified the library and health and human services as the best first targets to work on for us. That was because we had heating systems that were ready for replacement. They were already at their end of life and operating at a low efficiency. They're also a significant portion of our emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions from county facilities. And we also have them as public-facing, kind of resilient assets where we're providing a safe space for community members. They're very visible, and so we wanted to prioritize these two buildings for those reasons. We pursued a $3 million grant from DOLA's Climate Resilience Challenge and won that. And the total project budget is currently about $7.5 million, and I'll let Kevin take over and get more into the project management details.
Can you,
Thanks,
just before you go, just high level, given we're spending a lot of time with the airport, what's the square footage of the two buildings, just for comparison? So if we do really well over here, sustainability, we do HHS and library, but we have an airport and it's not as green. I mean, just give us a framing for this conversation.
Do you want me to? You got the numbers off the top of your head?
I do not
Okay.
have the numbers off the
I
top
don't
of my
have.
head.
And you can come
I don't
back. I
have-
mean, literally, it's really just to say, these two projects are 50,000 square feet, and we have an airport over here, it's 100,000 square feet. How do we get to that 90% in 2050 is what I'm trying to figure out.
I will say that the library, I believe, with the current square footage of the current terminal, the library, the reason that we picked on it for a few pieces is it is currently the largest building, maybe other than this with the 3 stories, but I believe it's around 60,000 square feet, I think, the library.
I'm pretty sure AI can tell me.
Yes, we can come back with you, but
Yeah,
looking at the back.
again, I'm just trying to figure out, at a macro level, I know Michael is, the inventory guy. How do we get our inventory there? These are large projects. How does this dovetail with the airport is where I'm going.
So you said 200,000 square feet at the airport? What airport are you talking about?
It is 38,900 square feet.
The
Thank you, AI.
library? So the airport terminal is about 50. The new one we haven't
Currently?
decided yet.
Jody, my lifeline over here, said between the two projects we're just over 50,000 square feet total. So, yeah.
I would just make the comment of how a little bit adding on to the background Michael added is that these are also retrofits, which we know is
Right.
much more difficult than a new build, which is some of why we're here today, all these years later.
And did Genevieve and Molly want to join us? You can.
We do.
It's a work session. Why don't you join us?
Okay, I'll be right back.
Does she need permission all the time?
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves.
More than welcome to join up here if you'd like, but I'll keep moving and we'll look to Genevieve to help us out with details as we go along if it's helpful and if she'd like. So right now, the great thing to know is that we're about 50% completed with the construction on both projects.
Yahoo.
So yeah, we're getting there. So when you look at Health and Human Services, we'll start there. What you're looking at here on the left-hand slide here is that we are looking at the old boiler in the old boiler room. Same room, actually. But when you look at the right-hand side of this, that's the new boiler. And I know this isn't about the boilers, but we did take the opportunity while in there to really do a good job of cleaning up what's in there. So if you can kind of just take a look at what it looks like before and after, this is going to really help out in the long term as far as maintenance and those types of things. It was not part of this project. It was paid for out of some maintenance dollars that we had, but we went ahead and replaced the domestic hot water heater with 2 on-demand hot water heaters, which they're a lot smaller. They fit in there better. They'll be able to be maintained easier, and they're more efficient as well. So
So they don't keep a whole tank.
we're not keeping the whole tank hot
Yeah.
all the time. So that was a kind of a side benefit. And so when we look at the next slide here, this is kind of the progress for the slab pour. So the heat pumps will sit on the back side of the Health and Human Services building there, and you can just kind of see the sequence of how it was going with getting the slab poured there for the heat pumps. And then this shows on the left-hand slide there, it shows the slab when it's been completed. It's now been inspected. It's passed inspection. It's ready. And the right-hand slide there are the 2 heat pumps that will be sitting there, and they're sitting out in Newcastle in a yard right now, waiting to come and be installed. So
They are gigantic.
they are large. They're not small things, and they are intended to be installed next week. So
They're blocking the windows?
what's that?
Are they blocking the windows?
They will be
Yeah.
close enough to the windows that they will be blocking at least a portion of them, yes.
I'm assuming they're going to sit on pedestals. They're not ground mounted.
There you can
They
see,
have legs.
You can see there's small little legs there.
Yeah, they have
so
legs.
I don't know that level of detail, Jeffrey.
Okay.
So
You need a
Um,
permit just for a slab?
yes, yep. And so
Boys' generation.
that is what's going on over at HHS. And some pictures. So the library, so our progress update at the library, as you can see on that left-hand slide there. The library is also about 50% complete. And the left-hand side is the couple of boilers that we're having a really tough time over the last few years. Those have been removed. You can see the new boilers. That's before they've been fully set. But then you can also, on the furthest to the right, you can see those are new pumps that are required for this whole system. They're set as absolutely high as they possibly can be, but cleaning up some of the taking this opportunity again to clean up some things in the mechanical room there. And one thing I want to point out is if you, on that last picture on the right, you look through the doorway and you see some insulation and those kinds of things. Our contractor, to try to do the best that they possibly can at keeping a quiet environment for library patrons and such, built a wall outside of the mechanical room, so they had a little bit of space to actually store some of their materials and such, but also to keep the noise and the impacts on the library down as much as possible.
Temporary wall.
Temporary wall, yes, sorry. Temporary wall there, that'll all be removed, but the intent of that was to make this as easy and as quiet for the library as possible. So, so that's all moving along. And as you look at this next picture here, these heat pumps are going to be set on the roof of the library. And so those are the new support rails and the support structures for the heat pumps that will sit on the roof. There's also some on the side that are actually for visual screening as well. And then on the right are the 5 heat pumps that are going to be lifted to the roof of the library. So that, and they're also sitting in Newcastle right now, waiting for us to get there. So
that gives you an idea how many heat pumps we would need for the terminal. We need that much for 38,000 square feet.
if one was relying upon air source heat pumps, it would,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. That
Yeah,
may
because
not-
we couldn't do ground because of all the utilities underneath and stuff.
I was saying if you were relying on air source heat pumps, I know there's a lot of work still going on with the airport
Yeah.
on what
Okay.
eventually that heating and cooling system might look like. So,
Yeah.
Betty.
What's the noise generated from a heat pump? Because my neighbor has one, and I can hear it next door. And
So-
if I can hear those 5 from my house, you're going to hear from me.
So the heat pumps do create some noise when they're being used, and when they're generating. What we've done is we've done sound studies for both locations, and the sound study were within the permitted requirements for both locations within the city of Aspen. So at this point in time, the decibels as they spread out are within acceptable levels. So-
Which means that the noise I hear now will be
Will be
much
better.
less than the noise I'm going to hear when all 5 of those get running, probably.
Yeah.
Or not.
I think you'll hear it.
How do they compare to?
Heat pumps, my neighbor's heat pump is a new generation heat pump, and when it goes on, I can
Yeah, but
hear them.
How does it compare to an air
Commissioner
conditioner or
Poshner.
a swamp cooler? Do we know? dB wise?
It's probably much closer to an air conditioner. The swamp cooler is usually a little bit less because it's mainly just run on a fan, But we do
Well,
have.
it's too late now. Can't tell you. Can't do it because my whole neighborhood's gonna go, what the heck's that noise? It's too late now.
I will say that for the Health and Human Services building, we do have, if need be, if the decibel levels as installed are higher than the decibel levels that were predicted to be, we do have an opportunity to put in some sound walls around that to kind of deflect
There's a
from the
berm right
neighbors.
behind
So-
there too,
What's
isn't
that?
there?
There's a berm around there before you get to the neighborhood as well.
Sometimes the noise
Yeah.
just goes up and over the berm, as we know.
Yeah.
Okay. It is what it is.
So schedule. So you'll see here the items in bold are, and this is a little bit different than what's in your packet because we are working on these things like literally as we speak. And so let's focus in on the bolded ones first. So early August, so next week, we're going to be setting the Health and Human Services heat pump. So they'll bring in a crane, they'll bring it over, they'll drop those things in. And from there through mid-August, they'll be really creating all the piping and the electrical connections that connect that heat pump to the rest of the heat system, basically. And then by early September, they're going to be doing the test and balance and everything and testing that system in the Health and Human Services building. So by mid-September or so, hopefully everything's up running and is doing what it needs to do. My understanding is that we will likely be learning a lot about these systems throughout the year, and so we'll go through a little bit of the fall season and we'll learn how the new system works in the fall, and we'll adjust for the next fall, and then the same in the winter, and we'll make some adjustments. So I wouldn't say, whoa, done, early September, we're done. We'll be in kind of learning mode probably for the next year or so, but the system should be up and running. At the library, we were We're currently negotiating with the city for the appropriate timing of a Mill Street road closure and detour that's going to be required to be able to set those 5 heat pumps. So it takes a larger crane, it takes a really good sized crane to get in there, and the only place that we can place that is on Mill Street, and you've got to close off the entire road. So we were actually looking at middle of the week closure in the middle of August, and the impacts to commuter traffic and such are something that the city would like us to try to avoid. And so we're now looking at the potential of a weekend closure, so a Saturday, but because of the timing and such, it'll probably have to be pushed out another week and a half or so.
Question, would the city rather permit a heavy lift helicopter? We could borrow the one the ski company's using to set towers and get it done in like 15 minutes.
They're operating till 8:30 at night.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's an option, and, you know, if it could be permitted, and if, you know, it may just save a lot of agony to, I've been on sites where we did stuff like that.
That is not something that to date we've considered. We've tried to figure out the different ways and different times to do the crane. I'll bring that up. Jody might be listening.
That's why
right
I'm
now.
here. Far-fetched ideas.
Yeah, let's bring a helicopter in moving heavy pieces of equipment right downtown Main Street and Mill.
So one of the challenges with this also is that we actually have to close the library for while we're doing this. No one, the contractor nor us, want to put, you know, public safety into risk by, you know, these are multi-ton pieces of equipment using a crane. There's going to be multiple. There's going to be 2 semi-trucks parked there to support all of it. So so that's a challenge. You know, the library is there to provide a public service, and when we have to close that, you know, that's not what we're looking for.
We do it at night?
So it was actually thrown out there as an option to potentially look at doing it at night. Our contractor is concerned about the safety of doing it at night. It's a big operation, and trying to do that with having to bring in lights and everything that goes along with the sound of that may not be especially appreciated by neighbors either when they're trying to sleep. And so at this point anyway, the city is open to a nighttime thing, but we have decided that we don't really think it's the best option. So, but
you thought about it.
It was considered, absolutely. So this is one of those challenges, as Kara was pointing out, of these retrofit electrification projects, is like you've got to close down buildings. We had you guys are well aware that while boring for the Health and Human Services building electrical connection, because we had to upgrade the power, you know, the contractor hit the electric line and we were out of power at the HHS building for 3 or 4 days. And so these are some of the challenges with doing this after the fact and trying to bring decades-old buildings into, you know, something that with modern electrified heating and cooling equipment. So that's why you see right now a TBD on when we're going to set the heat pumps. We're hoping for that 3rd week in August right now is what we're looking for, which kind of sets everything back a couple of weeks, but still puts us into kind of like that mid-September to late September, early October type of time frame where we'd be doing that testing at the library and such. So starts to get a little cold there, and so we're trying to keep it moving as quickly as we can. And then the budget. So update on the budget is that we have a total construction budget, which is different than the total budget because there's some soft costs associated with the engineering and everything else and design work. But the total construction budget is just under $6.5 million, and we have to date spent about $3.5 million of that, so a little over 50%. And right now, the Clean Heat project is on budget, and our DOLIC grant submissions are on track. So those are good things, you know. I did have on here just literally when I first made this presentation, like middle of last week, I was like, we were on track timing wise too. And now we've had that little bit of a glitch with the timing for the library, so we're working through that. And I will say that there is something that we want to bring to your attention now that you may be seeing again in the future. So they're called variable air volume terminal boxes, or VAVs. So if you look at this depiction on the left, what you see is a heating or cooling system over there that is not variable air. It's just a bunch of air coming in, and if you've got two different rooms, the same amount of air at the same temperature is coming into both of those rooms. And so if you wanted one of them to be a certain temperature and another to be another temperature, too bad, sorry. They're all going to be similar. Or if one's getting a bunch of solar radiation at the time, one's going to be warmer and the other's going to be cooler, and you really don't have a good way to control that. In the depiction just to the right of that, what you see is this box, basically, the VAV, that controls the amount of air. It's not the temperature of the air, but if you've got the room over there with two people and you want that to be a little cooler, or it's getting, say, some solar radiation from windows and such, you can increase or decrease the amount of airflow going into there. Then that is what, like this building has a bunch of these boxes in it. All of these buildings do. And it's so in the library, we have 37 of those boxes.
How much would that cost?
They're about 25 years old, and they're at the end of their lifespan as well. And so these are the kinds of things that our engineers who designed the electrification system didn't identify this. But once we got in there and started doing this, and we asked them more information, they came back and said, well, you're going to have this Rolls Royce basically of HVAC systems sitting on top of your library, and you're going to have these 25-year-old Chevy pickups, or whatever you want to call them, controlling the amount of air that goes into the different parts of the library. And you may really want to think about, bringing these up to date. So the controllers themselves, it's a metal box. You can see it over on the right. It controls the amount of air. A lot of them have a little heating element in them as well, because you may need to actually increase or decrease the amount of heat in there also. But they also have controls. And so you can see the little wiring on the side there. That goes to something else that then controls them. And that wiring and such, and the controls that go along with that are basically becoming outdated as well. And so there's 37 of them at the library. There's about that many sitting at HHS as well. We are right now getting pricing we've got decent pricing, but we're trying to confirm it for the library. We want to hold off on the Health and Human Services building right now, because there's some other projects that are capital projects related to HVAC that probably should be happening in the next year or two there as well anyway. So we're looking at the possibility of combining that with these other projects that you'll probably see in your budget soon, coming for the 2027 budget. These are not electrification things. These are just maintenance items that come along with owning and maintaining buildings. So this particular, right now, the cost estimate is about $480,000 for
those?
For 37 of those boxes and everything that goes along
Those
with
things look like they would last, 300 years. Why are we retiring them at 25 years? They're just a box.
So
they don't have a whole lot of
there's
things.
A mechanical system in there that opens and closes and does all the things, and those things are actually what would be replaced. The box itself will stay. It's the interior workings inside of the box that will be replaced, actually, and that saves us money.
Are they not working?
Some of them are working, some of them are not.
Oh.
And so, and they're up inside the ceiling. They're difficult to fully assess without getting all the way up in there and taking a look at them.
Well, yeah, but to get up in there and look at them for $500,000 seems like probably a pretty good thing to do.
You go ahead.
I think sweaters and Japanese fans would be a better solution.
Wanted to invite
I
Genevieve
mean,
up to talk about that.
That's the kind of glitch that is just like we didn't see coming. And I mean, really, when you look at that, and I mean, you know, we have those things all over our lives, those little doors that open, the vents that open, and they're not like $500,000 things. Like,
Genevieve, not switching subjects, but do you want to comment on your thermal comfort at the library? Or
No, I mean,
it's just shocking.
people are either cold or they're hot. We're cold and we're hot in this room. I've been jacking around with this. And we have these boxes, and they must not be working because every room is either too cold or too hot now in a building
Genevieve's
that's much
gonna tell
newer.
us whether they're comfortable.
great to see you.
It's always good to say to my face what you're feeling.
Can I wanted to ask, can I preface what we were
Yeah.
going to ask you? You don't mind?
Please.
You know, what we've done is we're trying to solve a bigger problem, the electrification challenge, which is, as Jeffrey will point out, it's a daunting challenge we're trying to face. And I know the sacrifices aren't always anticipated. What we don't want is you guys to be freezing to death or roasting over there. We want it to work, and we want it to work well, and we want to be proud of what we've done. But we know we've taken on a really complicated, thing, and so it requires a bit of sacrifice and lifestyle change, perhaps. But I wanted to find out, just like, have you guys been just miserable as this has all been happening, or just wondering what's happening to the books, or what's have your concerns been?
So the library team is resilient. They have been put through quite a bit over the last year or so. You may have noticed coming into that building throughout the summer, we had airflow coming in at 50 degrees. We had our temperatures tested at about 60 degrees throughout the summer. We had people walking in with shorts, short sleeves, turning around and leaving because it was so freezing in there. We had 5 space heaters set up in our Dunaway room in the middle of July for a bridge club in there. We have staff
Needs
wearing
tweaking.
beanies and parkas throughout the day to try, because the temperature is so variable.
Right.
We also have expensive equipment in our Dunaway room that we've invested in. We have that projector. It's about a $125,000 projector, state of the art, and it needs to be kept between 60 degrees and 75 degrees for it to function as it should. And when that room is too hot or too cold, it just stops working in the middle of presentations and classes and stuff like that. So we do need to be able to regulate the temperature effectively, not only for the staff. I mean, the staff, they're resilient and they're tough, and they are happy to be there and serve the public. They're stewards, but our patrons also. It's a 40,000 square foot building nearly, and their comfort is also important. The library is a refuge for people to come when it's hot, for people to go when it's cold. So we do want to make sure that if we're investing $3.5 million into our own system, that it's then going to be working correctly with the VAVs.
Right. There's the challenge, right?
Well,
we're on track.
Patty, we're wrapping comments.
Just
please.
real quick, the challenge for me is, what are we going to cut to fund it? We are looking at all these issues in all of our buildings and all of our, and all of the services. And I don't think the library fund can fund it. It's going to have to come back to probably general fund.
Patty.
General fund again. And let's hope that we're not trying to put out a forest fire. There's a flood right now on 133. The road is closed.
Oh, no.
So I know it's hard, and I appreciate that we want staff comfortable. Right now, my feet are freezing, my hands are freezing.
But we have 1,000 patrons also
That's
in that
because
building.
Karen thought it was stuffy, so
Kevin.
she turned it down.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Okay. That being said, I do have a valid question, if you don't mind.
please, and then wrap up comments.
I'm going to ask my valid question. In your memo, it says the project is currently on budget and DOLA grant submissions are on track. What does that mean, submissions? Does that mean we're getting the money from DOLA, or we're applying for the grant?
No, we have the grant. We're just on track with actually reporting
Okay.
to date, and so that's the first step to actually getting the grant money to come back in. And so
Okay.
we're keeping up with our reporting and everything that goes
Okay, I
along
want to
with-
make sure
with
that
them.
we have that money, that we're
Yes,
not just
we do.
submitting a grant application. Okay,
We're
I'm good,
submitting
I'm
the
good.
reports that
Add
we need to
another
report
$500,000
for
to
them
that, and
give
we
us the
can
money.
cover the rest.
Wrap
So
up.
just to finish
Wrap-
up the VAV discussion, which got sidetracked. So we don't have any choice about this?
Well, it doesn't sound like it.
So I want to go back to one thing, or two things actually. So we are looking for cost savings. There is quite possibly going to, right now, we're looking at some potential cost savings from the electrification project. And so there's potential there. And then we also have some money that was appropriated out of the library fund for some of the sewer lining project that our facilities and maintenance team has said that this VAV project is more important than the sewer lining project, and therefore would, and we've worked with Genevieve to say, would the library be okay if we move those funds and use them for something else? So we are doing everything we can to try to be good stewards of the funds that are available, and we're looking at that right now to try to figure out, is there money already appropriated that we could utilize to do this thing that truly is just a maintenance item. So like
Yeah.
these things, like anything else you have to be maintained at some point or another and be replaced. And so
So
we're
can they come
just
out of a different maintenance fund instead of the electrification fund? The costs?
So,
they
Yeah,
can
the
come
general
from
fund.
anywhere, but yeah.
so we're
Okay,
gonna,
I do have another question though about this whole system. How many amps does it take to run this system? Do you know?
Oh geez, that's not something I
And
don't.
did we have
Is
to
it Michael?
put in a new transformer and stuff and up our amperage?
We have had to change out the
Boxes?
I don't think we have to do transformers themselves, but like we've had to upgrade the boxes and
Yeah.
such. Yes.
Okay.
So I can
Thank
jump
you.
in. I don't remember the exact numbers, and I don't know if Michael could, but if you recall, one of the many conversations we've had about this is the sizing of what we did in the electrification was also somewhat, if we would have gone full snow melt if we would have electrified everything that was snow melted and done the whole building, we would have been going at a much bigger box at the transmission point. Because of the work that we've done on reducing some of the snow melt, we were able to size it down at a smaller increase.
Great. Thank you.
Kevin, wrap up comments.
I think
I don't think he was done.
Michael, you were
I
gonna
can,
yeah.
Yeah, I can breeze through this a little bit. I just wanted to highlight that, we're making an impact on this hybrid project, hybrid electrification and gas, with a carbon reduction, but also wanted to update the expectations on what the actual operational costs are going to be of this system. So in our original designs, I think that we had set the expectation based on electric resistance boilers that we were going to be paying 2 to 3 times more for the utility bills for these two facilities based on that original design. But actually with what we've come up with through our different iterations, we're actually seeing just a really minor increase in the expected library utility costs, and actually a decrease in the health and human services utilities cost. Along with that, we're seeing on the library about a 75% reduction in CO2 emissions, and about a 90% reduction in health and human services. So yes, we are going through this very complicated project, but I think this is actually showing that once we get these systems in place, they will do good things for us operationally. This is the impact that we want to see. Next slide, please. I also just wanted to comment as well that community education and outreach, and also staff outreach, has been a big part of this too. We do want to talk up the goal of this is to improve the comfort for occupants in the building. It's improving indoor air quality when we burn, or when we don't burn things inside of the building. They're more energy efficient and they're reducing carbon for us. So this is an example of a poster that we put up in both the library and health and human services buildings, just to tout the benefits of this project and try to help the community understand why we're doing this. So to wrap up, again, this is a key strategy for us. We're going to see a large reduction in our carbon emissions from our county buildings. We are finding that electrification comes with an additional cost, and it's more complex than just dropping a like-for-like replacement in there. But reflecting back on the previous slide, we're gaining these different benefits by upgrading to more modern systems. We're also leading by example here in this project. We were selected for our grant because very few local governments have attempted this ambitious of a retrofit on existing buildings, especially relatively older ones. And we want to see our community start to go in this direction as well through our building codes. So we're just showing that we're making attempts and learning alongside our community in doing this climate action leadership. So we really want to absorb all the information that we've gained during this project to help guide our future policy development. And we're going to want to do this on other facilities in the future at the county, along with our capital improvements. So certainly all the learnings are going to be incorporated into how we plan for and approach upcoming projects. So it's been a long and challenging, complicated process, but I think we're on track for a really great project that a lot of the state is looking at as well.
Ted, final comment?
I just wanted to wish Michael best of luck.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything. And yeah, no, that was my final comment before you signed
Michael,
off.
we're gonna miss you, buddy.
Thank you.
Are you gonna be doing interesting work like this where you're going?
Yes.
I'm actually going to be doing building electrification work. Yes.
Awesome.
So exactly this.
That's great.
Yep.
It's really great. Yeah, we'll miss you, Michael.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Genevieve.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Genevieve.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Your
Thank
support
you.
system back there.
Good luck to you, Michael.
Future agendas?
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.
I just have one thing.
Please.
Can you please make note and let Sam know on the 25th of August, I have another ACRA meeting, and it will be in person at the Meadows, just so it gets put on the agenda. Rye's been pretty good about not forgetting, but it's nice if it's noted on the agendas.
I'll make sure.
And the 18th, I won't be here. I'll be at the Water Congress.
Is that August 18th?
Yes.
And
I'm gone on August 18th as well.
And I think, Greg, my question was, you said you might be calling in for items?
I
or-
might be able to, but I'll know more soon. How about that?
Okay.
Did you get feedback on the airport conference, the development and investment conference, October 8th and 9th? Any
I
other
did.
attendees?
Do you want me to go
I
through those?
couldn't hear what he said.
I was going to go through those during open discussion.
That seemed like a calendar item to me, but okay.
There's-
Any other future agenda items?
The only other piece I wanted to bring up is we had talked initially with Jeffrey and Francie yesterday about the potential for a joint meeting with the AAB on Thursday, August 20th, and that the board would join the AAB meeting, and wanted to touch base with the board about looking at that date, or if we would need to schedule a joint meeting of a different date, but we're looking at wanting to do a joint meeting with the BOCC and AAB in August.
I'm gone the 20th.
What day? Thursday the 20th?
Thursday, the 20th, the 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
You gonna be gone that
So,
whole week?
CCI.
So that's
Sorry, 3 to 5. 3 to 5.
So we will not be in town.
This is-
Sorry, the CCI
Who's we?
folks, sorry, as Ted just described, the CCI Mountain District that
Oh,
day.
okay. Okay.
So the 20th is not good for a joint AAB meeting.
Okay. Well, let's chat tomorrow about what are potential dates for a joint meeting
Okay.
with AAB.
What about the Wednesday?
I'm assuming
Is that
this is their
CCI
regular
also?
meeting.
I was looking at the BOCC attending their regular meeting, so we'll chat offline and find
Yeah,
out
I'm
the
not
date.
available on Wednesday, and Thursday, you might want to let Allison know. There'll only be 3 commissioners here for her survey report, which she was waiting for a full board.
I'll read it.
Further.
Well, she wanted to present it to the board in full. That's why we moved
Anything
it
else
from
future calendar?
last week.
Well, hang on just a minute. So you're gone that week? Where are you going?
He's gone.
Oh, I thought you said you weren't available on the 18th.
No, I have doctor's appointments all day on the 18th, and Greg's gonna be gone for that week, I think. I don't know where
On the
Greg.
18th, you're gonna be.
I'm booked with doctor's appointments on Wednesday, the 18th. No, on the Wednesday, the 19th. The 18th, I'm here, Greg's gone, and you're gone.
But the 18th, it doesn't sound like any of us are gonna be here.
No,
No, what
I'm gonna be here on the 18th. I don't know about anybody else.
I'm not here on the 19th either.
Who's on first?
Isn't that what we decided?
So, no, clarification. So, Francie and Greg are not here during the work session on the 18th. Patty is not here for the work session on the 25th. Or sorry,
No,
that's
no.
ACRA. I just confused things.
Late start.
A late start given ACRA, and then we will look at a different date that the August 20th does not work as a potential joint meeting because people will be out. So we'll find a different date for a joint meeting with AAB.
Correct.
And when are you gone to CCI?
That's the 20th. It's a 1 day in Leadville. Is that correct?
The 20th, we
Twin
had
Lakes.
tentatively planned a joint meeting with Lake County,
I can speak to that.
and that got axed, obviously, because nobody will be here.
Oh, on the end.
I had reached out, but with Willow Creek Fire,
Lake County Commissioners.
they've been a little under to
Yeah.
get planning there.
I've
so.
just crossed it off.
Anything else future agendas?
Those are the only items.
Excellent. Jeff Erickson, open discussion, polymeric building products.
I thought we just had a letter.
We
We've
have
gotten
2 letters
so
on the
many letters.
agenda. Jeff is one of them.
Getting
It's
them for months.
polymeric building products is first, and then we'll do RHTP. Thanks for joining us. Floor is
Hello.
yours. Hi.
Am I presenting or is this,
I would
how
say,
does this work?
I would say informal. So this is a letter. Are you looking to sign it yourself, or do you want the board to sign it? I know
Why
that.
don't I'll jump in. So
Give
let's
everybody
go.
a little background
Yeah.
here. What are we talking
So,
about?
The commissioners, you all had been receiving comments about a request to revisit the ban as part of your wildfire code because we went above and beyond what was in the state part of it. So at the last board meeting, the BOCC had asked for Jeff Erickson to draft a letter response that then we could send out. So I think Jeff is here today. We've shared the letter with all of you, can kind of speak at a high level about that. And then it's up to the board's discretion that it can come from Jeff as CBO or if you guys want to send it to the
Well,
BOCC.
can you give us a summary of what our position is? Because when I saw that, I thought it was those people writing to us
Oh.
again, so I didn't open it.
Okay.
I saw the polymer thing, and I was like, oh, I'm not reading that again.
I created some slides that I can share that give a high level
Yeah.
because it's a bit nuanced.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that if we have time.
We have
Go for it. Go
4
fast.
o'clock, we have to go into exec.
Okay, I'll go real fast. So basically, back in April of last year, we adopted the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code. It went into effect in May. And during that process, we decided to ban the use of vinyl or polymer-based products in specifically windows, doors, siding. What's the other one? We got it here.
Fencing.
Fencing, that's correct. Thank you. And that was a recommendation by Chair Woodruff, who was on the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board. So the Polymer Exterior Products Association has come back and has a, they're basically fighting that ban. So let's see.
Sorry, I got you.
So are we supporting continuing with the ban? Are we?
So Jeff has gone through the rationale for basically in his presentation, he'll go through the rationale behind the ban and continued support for the ban, given the deformation of plastics when exposed to direct flame impingement or radiation.
Well, I want to see these slides because I want to.
Sure. Yeah. So these first 3 slides. How do I share this?
Top right, the slideshow.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So these are. After the first reading, we came back and proposed some code content. And we did a little bit of research on why vinyl and polymer-based products are not the greatest for the fire-exposed sides of structures and fencing. We found that they melt easily and warp, they ignite easily, and then they release flammable and toxic gases. And then fencing and openings and structures, it provides a path for rapid spread of wildfires. So these are the code sections that PEPA has said that, hey, our products actually do work here. And these are the sections that were at the state level allowed vinyl products that we amended out. Here's this is the exterior wall covering. So this is siding, vinyl siding. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 are non-combustible, fire retardant, and ignition resistant building materials. The highlighted area is what we deleted that is allowed at the state level. It basically says if you have a 1-hour fire rated assembly, you can put vinyl on the outside and you're good.
But we deleted that.
We did, and I can show why.
I mean,
here.
it was proposed we were going to. Did we actually do it?
We did.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did,
Yep.
per Jeffries.
We removed it for those 4
Okay,
sections.
yeah, okay.
Siding, glass, or windows, doors, and fencing.
Mhm.
Can't use the product. And I think the most important thing here is the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code is a minimum standard. And here in Pickens County, we have a little bit different animal when it comes to the terrain, the fuels, the way wildfire acts here, and our evacuation routes and high value infrastructure. So this is minimum code compliance, and it does not prohibit us from making a greater requirement where needed.
Mm-hmm.
The definition for non-combustible material. Basically, what I'm trying to get at with this slide is that this ASTM E136 standard, it tells me that a material is non-combustible. And examples that pass are concrete, steel, and masonry, and vinyl is not one of those materials that passes the non-combustible. So while you have, if you have vinyl in a 1-hour assembly, that just says, okay, this structure can withstand fire for an hour. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say that it's non-combustible. That's the difference.
But wallboard will
Yep.
last an hour.
Correct. Yeah, it is considered a non-combustible material,
Okay.
which is greater than a 1-hour fire-rated assembly.
Okay, thank you.
Vinyl. So PEPA's argument is that vinyl siding with a 1-hour fire-rated assembly. Hey, this meets wildfire exposure, and it actually does not. If you look at the standard for a 1-hour fire-rated assembly, it does not. It's under a controlled environment in furnace conditions. It doesn't take into the how a wildfire behaves from structure to structure. So the bottom line is 1-hour fire-rated wall does not demonstrate that every exterior component remains protected during a wildfire. And this is what happens to vinyl whenever it's exposed to wildfire. It melts, it pulls up, it provides ingress and egress path for first responders, hazards to them. It pulls away and it exposes the sheathing. Mm-hmm. And it also, I think the key thing here is that harmful gases are exposed.
Yeah.
And then you get into windows, and windows to me is a no-brainer. So this is the code section that the state has the minimum requirement, and we removed added to prohibit vinyl in windows. This just shows a wildfires,
Yeah.
each type of window and its exposure to wildfires. And you can see that they melt, they degrade, they deform, the glass falls out if it's not already fallen out. We know that glass is like the most, it's the easiest path of entry for wildfire once that falls out. So, and then fencing, again, kind of like the siding, it's easily ignitable. It pulls up. It's more of a first responder entry to residents. That is the issue. And non-combustible or ignition-resistant materials was found to be greater than vinyl or polymer. And I don't know if you guys read the letter that I provided, but there's a list of citations in the back from CAL FIRE and University of California Fire Network that say that non-combustible fencing is much better.
I'm reading that it says the temperature, the melting temperature of the vinyl is between 160 and 180 degrees. That's crazy. That seems so.
Really? It's
That's
less than
low.
boiling water.
That's like it's less than boiling water.
It's not great. Yeah. And the final takeaway, the question is not whether polymer products satisfy minimum code requirements. The question is whether additional protections are justified given Pickton County's wildfire risks. Based on the available evidence, we believe that they are.
Did you send this to the guy?
These slides?
Yeah, well, this information.
This is
In
kind
his
of
letter.
a high-level overview of this
Of the letter.
this letter that I wrote. So, I do not believe that they've had receipt of this yet.
We have not sent the letter yet. We wanted to come back to all of
We have not what?
We have not sent the letter yet. We wanted to come back to all of you before we sent it off.
That's my quick 2 minutes of.
Thank you for putting those slides together. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Well, and Jeff, thanks for all the research and backing up the decisions we made. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So 2 questions for you. 1, would you like to share it back with the Polymeric Institute? And 2, is it also appropriate, we would like to share this back with the Wildfire Board so they understand that we've gone above and beyond and here's the justification. So I'd like to see both actions out
Totally,
of this
yeah,
board.
yeah. And the other thing that didn't make it into the citations was the Lahaina and Palisade fires, that there's tons of other available evidence that this is an issue.
My notes for you were the after-action reports from both fires basically said, do not use vinyl. If you want vinyl windows will delaminate and your glass will be sitting between the 2 structures. So
totally,
further support.
Well, you convinced me. I'm okay with signing it.
The question is, do we want to have Jeffrey sign it?
I would say it's appropriate for the CBO. I think this is really the board is
What is
directed.
TDO?
The chief building official.
Chief building officer official. I think it's appropriate. So I'd welcome Jeff. I mean, I'm happy to send it.
You could sign it too.
Yeah, my suggestion would be actually to be, because you all are getting inundated at the board level, my suggestion would be the chair and the CBO both sign it. If
We
you all
aren't getting
comfortable.
inundated. We got one.
No, I've gotten 3.
Oh, I've only gotten the one from the guy that we forwarded on, and I think we could just say but whatever. I think sometimes we go overboard, and I'm concerned about the cumulative effect of us always going overboard. Writing this lengthy letter and submitting it to all these other people to respond to this business industry who's looking at their dollar loss
Jeff,
of
if
not
you-
being able to use the
if you
product.
send this back to either
I guess
Sam-
I don't get to finish talking. Okay, fine.
Commissioner
I'm good.
Clapper, are you finished?
Well, I guess I am, yeah, and I said I was fine with sending the letter. I'm just concerned about the cumulative effect. But yeah, it was well done and well documented.
If you send it to Sam or to Amy, we can get it through DocuSign. So we've got a record of it as well for Laserfish. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
RHTP, there's a request for the chair's signature. RHTP is the Rural Health Transformation Program, which is a letter of support being submitted for Mountain Family Health Centers. Looking for board support on that letter.
motion to support, or do you need a thumbs up?
I'm
What do you
looking
need?
just for
can't
thumbs up.
Thumbs
It,
up.
it was in the packet. It was the last page of the packet.
And the only clarification I will make, it's just a letter of support. There is no request for matching dollars or anything from the county.
Correct. Commissioner Clapp, are you okay with the signature from the chair for the Mountain Family Health?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. Anything further open discussion?
Aren't you gonna ask me?
No, because you don't have any comments that he wouldn't agree with.
You don't have to ask me. I'm fine with it.
He's picking on me, it's okay.
Informally going to poll everyone, so we'll end up with a vote during a work session.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I made eye contact and got a nod. Airport conference is October 8th and 9th. It is the Development and Investment Conference at the Marriott in Los Angeles. Do we have attendance?
So I've talked with our finance staff. I think it is very much heavily targeted to a 3P, so the public-private partnership, which is why it's kind of targeted for free for government. I have asked our team to, based on kind of the interest of the board, to also see what are the other finance conferences that might be more appropriate. So we're getting more information and we'll share that out with
Well, I've
all
already
of you.
registered, as you know, because it's free. But I talked with Diane Jackson briefly, and I don't know if any other one will fit into our time frame, or my time frame, or Jeffrey's, so, yeah, fine. But,
We're getting more information. We can bring it back.
well, I've already got plans
full
to
for
go, so I guess
conversation.
we're not going now? I don't know.
From the staff's perspective, it is very targeted at a public-private partnerships, which is not really where the focus of the
Okay,
financing
I'll
for
cancel
the
my plans
airport.
and withdraw my application.
So we will, I know Diane and Liz are working on the team to see what are those other places that might be more valuable, more of the BOCC's time to attend.
It's fine with me. I don't need to spend 3 days at the airport Marriott if it's not really helpful.
I was thinking about catching a surfing lesson. Damn.
I was concerned about going to a conference that was gonna give me some information about how to fund an airport.
But if the topic is something we've been getting away from, I mean, there's a better one, I'd entertain that.
That,
So we'll get-
that we can't attend, I don't know, this one, never mind.
Excellent. And did you want to share dates for potential DC
Yeah.
trip?
I have two other quick updates. So we have been working with Thorn Run and our lobbyists, and we are locking in that the DC travel dates will be the 15th through 17th will be the dates in DC, with travel likely on the Monday and Thursday. And so we will need to discuss at the board of which two commissioners will be going, and then they are drafting a rough agenda of what it means to, what it would be working with the delegation, meeting with FAA, DOT, and I don't know if the board has those. We've really focused it just on the airport at this point, but if there's other departments or agencies that you all think would be valuable of that time. So I should have a draft from Thorn at the end of this week, and then we can revisit it next week of that, but need to have a conversation, and we can have the outline of which two commissioners will be traveling.
It's been my experience that when we book out on like a Thursday here, we've stayed over Wednesday night for nothing on Thursday except for travel. So if I go, and everybody's okay if I go, I would like to come back the night of the Wednesday night rather than the 17th.
I think all our options, I actually was chatting with Diane about last time, so we would basically have a day on Tuesday and a day on Wednesday on the Hill. Am I getting this right? Yeah, but most of the day on the Hill would be that Tuesday, with Wednesday with any follow-up, but given various schedule changes, I didn't want us to be locked in of if we missed meetings or anything like that, so.
The Wednesday night departure would be okay. Okay, well, we'll see what people decide, but that would be great for me because I have the River District budget meeting the next day.
In speaking with the Department of Transportation when we were in New Orleans, the discussion of meeting with FAA came up. That we should probably meet with FAA when whoever from
Can't
the
hear
board.
you at all, Patty.
When the discussion with FAA would be important, since funding for other things might have to come through FAA, not through DOT specifically. But whoever the board decides should go on this trip can make up their minds who they want to speak with. But
I'm assuming we're going to talk to the FAA.
Yeah, we are planning we'll definitely be talking to the FAA and to DOT, are the two that we've identified with our lobbyists right now, but want to talk to the board about others.
Anything further?
The
Open
last
discussion.
piece is, I think some of you have gotten wind, Phil Weiser has interest in coming and visiting the microgrid in partnership with Holy Cross. It is over a weekend and Holy Cross is not available to be there, but wanted to see if board members would be available. It is the 15th and 16th are the 2 dates that he's
Of what month?
Sorry, of August. So he has an interest in coming and seeing the microgrid, and I would also say talking about our sustainability interests at the airport as it relates. So I wanted to see if there were commissioners that were around and available. I think we do have a couple of staff members that would make themselves available if we were able to host him over that weekend.
He wants to meet with Holy Cross, but they're not available, but he's coming anyway?
It's
It's joint.
It's campaign.
He's interested in seeing our microgrid, which is a joint partnership with Holy Cross and Pitkin County. Holy Cross is not able to attend, but if we want to still host, they are fine.
And he's coming as a candidate. It's a campaign stop, he's not coming as the Attorney General.
I'm not interested in meeting with Phil Weiser.
I'd be happy to meet with him either day, and there's a chance that we could still get Dave Monk from their board in lieu of Mr. Hannigan. Yeah.
I guess, let me ask, is the board supportive of hosting Phil Weiser to see our microgrid and talk about our sustainability efforts at the airport?
What do you mean by hosting?
What does hosting entail?
Sorry, a site visit at the microgrid. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that going to complicate the fact that we're not offering the same visit to the other candidate for governor?
So,
We can offer it to him as well.
I just want to make sure,
Yeah,
it's a campaign issue. I want to make sure we're not overstepping our bounds as far as campaign issues.
I could be available. I'm not sure the other candidate would be interested, but I could be available. Yeah.
Have you ever been to the microgrid?
I think I know where it is. I could find it. Ride my bike over that way.
It's really hard to see when you're driving around.
further open discussion? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
So we're going to vote to